Chapter 949. Imperceptibly, those who had previously described Li Mubai as a dog's fart no longer dared to belittle him, even though they still felt that he was not qualified to obtain a place to enter the secret realm. Even some of the elders who were secretly paying attention to this matter were slightly surprised. As for the initiators who had added fuel to the fire in order for their disciples to obtain a place to enter the secret realm, they were very unhappy. Especially Zhang Chang's master, who was even more unhappy. He was unhappy that Li Mubai was able to break through and counterattack. At the same time, he was unhappy that Zhang Chong was as impulsive as his name suggested. Previously, he had warned him not to be too hasty. Now, Ma Qianzu had been slapped in the face and Zhang Chang's challenge had been pushed to the forefront. Even he, as the master, had lost face. The next day, at dusk, under the afterglow of the setting sun, the Daoyuo Jingxian Palace district, which was originally like a fairyland, was now covered with a gorgeous and colorful glow. The battle between Li Mubai and Duan Qin yesterday had broken out at this point. At this moment, the entire martial arts practice field was filled with many more Daoyuo Golden Wonderland cultivators than yesterday. Obviously, a large portion of them had rushed back to the sect from other places after receiving the news. Zhang Chong had already arrived at the martial arts practice field and was sitting cross-legged with his eyes slightly closed. His entire aura was extremely calm, as though he had blended into the heaven and earth. Under the glow of the sunset, he shone brightly. The time has come. Li Mubai, when are you going to appear? Amidst the buzz of discussion, a cultivator in the crowd suddenly stretched out his neck and roared. His voice directly penetrated the void and reverberated throughout heaven and earth. You boasted so shamelessly yesterday. Are you going to be a coward today? Another voice sounded. Both of them were in Zhang Chang's group. However, Duan Chen, who had been beaten to the point of kneeling and humiliating by Qin Hao yesterday, did not appear. Naturally, this was not because his injuries were too severe. At their cultivation level, as long as their souls were not severely damaged, they would recover very quickly. One day was enough. Obviously, he was too ashamed to appear. There's still no movement. Could it be that he's really scared? What puzzled everyone was that the two's provocative shouts could be heard even from tens of thousands of kilometers away. Li Mubai clearly knew that there was a battle today, so it was impossible for him to still be in closed-door cultivation at this time, so there was no reason for him not to hear their shouts. However, Li Mubai's palace did not move at all, nor did it respond. Li Mubai, are you playing dumb? Or are you afraid that senior martial brother Zhang will beat you until you wet your pants and beg for mercy? You coward, didn't you clamor so happily yesterday? The two of them became even more aggressive, and their curses became more and more unpleasant. Fuck, to think that I was still admiring his courage and improvement yesterday. Now that I've risen to the occasion, he's gone. Looks like he was blinded by his victory yesterday. That's why he shamelessly welcomed the challenge. A coward will always be a coward. How boring. The people in the crowd who were watching the show were also unhappy and started to curse. Wasn't this a waste of energy? They had waited for so long in vain. They had been looking forward to the exciting battle and humiliating show today. There's one more thing, one last thing. No one knew that Qin Hao had reached the most critical moment of the stealing the sky and swapping the sun of his soul origin. His entire person was immersed in the cultivation room, and his appearance was calm as if he was immersed in some kind of deep level of comprehension. However, in the great world of his mind, under the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree, terrifying immortal light was blooming. The majestic and terrifying soul power condensed into endless runes, causing the sea of spirit springs within tens of thousands of kilometers around him to set off monstrous waves. This was something that could not be helped. Qin Hao had to complete all his work in his great world of mind. Otherwise, his master would be fine, but the fifth great elder, who was a Tao-severing true immortal, could see his situation with just a thought. What would happen if this abnormal fluctuation was discovered? What's going on? This kid has just broken through the barrier of the divine power law. Is he going to break through again? Indeed, the fifth great elder's divine sense had quietly penetrated Qinhao's palace. He was slightly moved when he sensed Qinhao's aura. Anyone who saw Qinhao's aura could tell that he was in the midst of a profound comprehension. The fifth great elder could not help but be surprised. Boom! 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 Crash! The sea of spirit springs suddenly exploded in all directions with Qinhao's soul and the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree as the core. Endless Tao laws rolled and waves of qi soared into the sky. It's done. Qinhao suddenly opened his eyes in the cultivation room and said excitedly. Qi! As soon as he finished speaking, he turned into a stream of light and rushed out of the palace. It's done. Did he really break through again? Good kid. The fifth great elder was really shocked this time. His powerful perception could clearly sense that Li Mubai's soul aura had become much stronger and sharper. This was not an increase in soul power. No one could increase soul power, which was the hardest thing to increase, in just a day. Instead, it was a change in the nature of the soul. If Li Mubai was compared to a sword, then yesterday he was a sword that had not been sharpened. Today, he had been sharpened and its edge was on full display. This is definitely a monstrous genius. After opening the apertures, it's like being reborn, cleansing his meridians and marrow. He's a real dragon in the abyss. Good, it's lucky that I discovered it early. Otherwise, who knows how many old fellows would want to snatch it from me. Ha ha ha. The fifth great elder laughed excitedly in his palace, his beard trembling. Little Tian, get over here. Ah. Fifth great elder, what orders do you have? Seeing his disciple Li Mubai rush out of the palace, Tian Wanxiang, who was relieved, was suddenly shocked by the fifth great elder's voice transmission. Drink. Cough cough. Okay, disciple will immediately get over there. Ha. The fifth great elder was amused by Tian Wanxiang. When one was in a good mood, one would be happy about anything. Who says I don't dare? It's just the right time. Just when everyone was looking down on Li Mubai, the door of Li Mubai's palace suddenly opened. At the same time, Li Mubai's voice was like a sharp sword piercing through the air. Qi! A stream of light flashed past. Li Mubai was as fast as lightning in the middle of the martial arts practice field. Fuck, what a fast speed. It can't be, he's so much faster than yesterday. How is this possible? Could it be that this guy was still hiding his strength yesterday? Qinhao's appearance caused countless people to be surprised. But Qinhao didn't care at all. All of this was within Qinhao's expectations. Accidents, he also needed to have the ability to create accidents. His soul force didn't change, and the transformation of his soul origin, he believed that this kind of change was reasonable and there was no flaw. He had already completed the first step of stealing the sun. At this moment, no one would be able to discover that he wasn't Li Mubai unless they entered his soul origin. Chapter 950. Zhang Chong, who was sitting cross-legged like an old monk in meditation, suddenly opened his eyes the moment Qinhao stepped onto the martial arts practice field. Boom! His eyes were as sharp as swords, and his essence, qi, and spirit erupted like a volcano. With a boom, his fighting spirit soared crazily, and an overwhelming pressure swept out, shocking the surrounding cultivators. 20 years ago, Zhang Chong was ranked 41st in the Primordial Chaos Sect's most recent 100-year ranking competition for golden immortal disciples of the great all-embracing heaven. He was indeed several places higher than Li Mubai remembered his ranking 200 years ago. It didn't seem big, but after reaching the peak of the late stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland, it would be difficult to make any progress in 1,000 years, let alone hundreds of years. To be able to rise several places in a short 200 years was already quite outstanding. Because of this, even though Zhang Chong was ranked 41st, he was very likely to be qualified to enter the secret realm. If he could rise to the 5th or 6th place, with his progress in the past 200 years, his chances would be greater than those who were ranked ahead of him. However, it was precisely because his ranking was a few places behind that the situation became very complicated. If Qin Hao took another place, his chances would be reduced by more than half. This was also the reason why he was more anxious than those who were ranked higher. Amazing! To everyone's surprise, Zhang Chong stared at Li Mubai and said these two words. It seems that yesterday's outburst was not without reason. In the ranking competition 300 years ago, you were just a mediocre character. The strength you showed yesterday was already amazing, but today, you give me the feeling that you are even stronger. Maybe you are really a late bloomer for the 5th Grand Elder to take a fancy to you. Li Mubai, I underestimated you. Today, if I can't defeat you within 100 moves, you will be qualified to enter the secret realm. And my challenge today is just the beginning. I, Zhang Chong, will definitely get a place to enter the secret realm. Clang! As soon as Zhang Chong's voice fell, a scarlet waterfall bloomed from between his eyebrows. In an instant, the temperature of the entire martial arts practice field suddenly became abnormally hot. Saber Dao. What does Zhang Chong mean? While the crowd was surprised by Zhang Chong's seriousness, they were also slightly confused by Zhang Chong's words. It's very simple. Li Mubai's speed was so fast that there are no more than 50 people here who can match him. Although his current aura was not as strong as yesterday, it gave people a feeling of sharpness, as if he had been reborn. 300 years ago, what was Li Mubai's ranking? More than 4,000. What about today, 300 years later? If he could take 100 moves from Zhang Chong, then he would definitely be comparable to the top 50 experts. This rate of improvement was extremely terrifying. Since ancient times, the disciples of the secret realm have not been selected solely based on the ranking of combat power. And Zhang Chong is now ranked 41st. Li Mubai has taken a place. If he wants to enter again, he has to show more strength. That's why, he said that the challenge is just the beginning. Phew, this is going to be interesting. There will be a good show to watch. That's right. There's still one more month before the list is announced. There will be a good show in this month. It wasn't so lively in the past. At most, there would be people who would challenge a few days before the list was announced. After all, the secret realm only opens once every 10 years. For us, it's hard to improve even in 100 or 1,000 years. That's right. This Li Mubai must have gotten some great opportunity. He didn't participate in the previous 2 ranking competitions, but after returning from the experience, he has improved so much. The crowd discussed animatedly. At this moment, although the battle had not started, Qin Hao's appearance and Zhang Chong's words made everyone unable to underestimate Li Mubai anymore. However, Zhang Chong's tone suddenly changed. His calm expression suddenly became sinister. No matter if you can last 100 moves, I will beat you to the ground. I will make you kneel in front of me and seek justice for junior brother Duan Chen. Ruthless. I said, this is the real Zhang Chong. Zhang Chong is famous for being hot-tempered, but he's very loyal. Duan Chen stood up for him. If he doesn't return the favor, then he wouldn't be Zhang Chong. That's expected. At this moment, all eyes were on Li Mubai. Zhang Chong's words were so ruthless. Even if Li Mubai's improvement was amazing, it was inevitable that he would be humiliated today. Under everyone's gaze, Qin Hao, whose fighting spirit was soaring but whose expression was solemn, suddenly smiled and said, "Ridiculous, don't forget, who was the one who said that he wanted the other to kneel. Now you want to talk about justice with me? You're just asking to be humiliated. If you have the ability, then come at me. It's not certain who will be the one to kneel. Don't think that you're strong now, but you'll always be strong. A fair duel is nothing more than winning or losing. If you humiliate me, then you should be prepared to be humiliated 100 times more in the future." As soon as he finished speaking, the smile on Qin Hao's face vanished completely, and his gaze became ghastly and fierce to the extreme. Where was this the Li Mubai who bullied the weak and feared the strong? Qin Hao's words clearly expressed a message. He was indeed a little weak now. Perhaps he was not Zhang Chang's opponent at all, but it did not mean that he would always be inferior. Whoever humiliated him today, he would return it 100 times more in the future. Showing off his ability, showing off his magnificence. This made the surrounding cultivators, especially those who were prepared to be the pawns of others to humiliate Qin Hao, shudder. If Li Mubai was really the mediocre person of the past, it would be fine. But now, the feeling Li Mubai gave people had completely changed. Especially when they thought of the amazing improvement after returning this time, these people had no choice but to reconsider. Zhang Chong was also choked by Qin Hao's fierce counterattack, and his expression became extremely ugly. You've got guts. See how I humiliate you today. I'd like to see how strong you can be in the future. Take this. Zhang Chong roared angrily, and the large saber that was blooming with crimson light, which was obviously a top-grade saint artifact, suddenly swept out. Immediately, a fiery red waterfall containing terrifying power and divine ability laws swept out at a violent speed, as if cutting the void into two, and slashed at Qin Hao's waist. Chi! In a flash, he was in front of Qin Hao. The violent and terrifying power was mixed with a frightening sharpness, and even Qin Hao could feel the strength of this guy. It had to be said that Zhang Chong was indeed very strong, as he could be ranked 41st in the top Hunyuan sect Daluo Golden Wonderland. Indeed, he was not someone that Li Mubai could contend with at the moment, but only Li Mubai, and not Qin Hao himself, Mountain Sea Divine Fist. Boom! Qin Hao's pupils shrank, and he suddenly soared into the air and punched out. A violent wind raged, and Dao laws rolled. The fist intent was monstrous, and it was definitely more than 60% stronger than yesterday. Dodge? Humph, I'd like to see how you dodge it. Chi 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 chi. At that instant, streams of crimson light streaked across the sky. The saber glows were dazzling. The sharp and violent saber chi mixed with a ferocious and terrifying force slashed at Qin Hao. Chapter 951. The saber gleams intertwined like a heavenly net, covering the sky and the sun. The terrifying aura made countless cultivators in the surroundings gasp. Even the few cultivators who were ranked higher than Zhang Chong had a grave expression on their faces at this moment. Chi chi chi, boom 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 boom. Qin Hao's figure was as fast as lightning. Under the terrifying blade lights and the heavy pressure, he was actually able to dodge them repeatedly. Moreover, his fists flickered, smashing apart the blade chi one after another. Amidst the terrifying explosions, Zhang Chong's expression became increasingly violent and ruthless. He had used 90% of his strength in this move. Although he did not think that it would be able to heavily injure Li Mubai, it was definitely not a problem to suppress him. But now, under his blade lights, his opponent actually had the strength to fight back. This made Zhang Chong very unhappy. He was an expert ranked 41st. Your improvement is indeed astonishing. Zhang Chong coldly snorted, his eyes narrowing, but it's still far from enough. Is that so? The corner of Qin Hao's mouth curled up in a provocative and cold smile as he violently punched out. Soon after, his pupils abruptly shrank as they flashed with a fierce red light. All the hair on his body stood on end as his hands formed one rune after another at lightning speed. The resplendent rune light and the majestic and vigorous true essence made Qin Hao seem like a tornado that was rotating at high speed, causing the spectators nearby to feel suffocated. At the same time, they were shocked. Was this guy crazy? Zhang Chong had not even taken the initiative to approach, but he actually took the initiative to get close. What was the difference between this and seeking death? Although Li Mubai's strength, speed, and use of divine ability law had broken everyone's understanding of him, he still could not compare with Zhang Chong. Obviously, this was a very stupid tactic. Or perhaps, after Li Mubai's strength had skyrocketed, his confidence had exploded, and he had become arrogant to the point of looking down on everyone. But no matter what, for Zhang Chong, this was a naked provocation and contempt. What's wrong with this kid? Even the fifth Grand Elder, Tian Wanxiang, who was drinking to his heart's content, furrowed his brows. It was a good thing that Li Mubai's soul had undergone a true transformation today, but it seemed that his confidence was a little too inflated. The two of them didn't pay much attention to what he said earlier. After all, in their eyes, it was because they were backing him up, which allowed him to go all out and fight without any scruples. But now, he had actually taken the initiative to close in on him. Did he really think that he was invincible? "You're courting death." Rumble. Zhang Chong roared angrily. Suddenly, a terrifying rumbling sound came from under his feet as he violently charged towards Qin Hao. 10,000 saber astrals, 10,000 layers of heaven. Violent true essence gushed out from his large saber, and one could not see the saber vibrate at all. Countless crimson-red saber auras directly appeared in front of him. The terrifying cutting force and strangling force seemed to have divided the void into layers of heaven and earth, and its momentum was shocking to the extreme. No one had expected that Zhang Chong, who was infuriated by Qin Hao's provocation, would actually directly display such a terrifying ultimate move. 100% of his strength, 10 layers of magical powers, without holding back. At this time, everyone thought that Li Mubai would definitely be scared out of his wits and retreat. However, boom! Qin Hao's eyes, which were already scarlet red, seemed to be blind to this. Roar! He let out a furious roar like that of a wild beast. The symbols that had condensed were all blasted out along with his wild punch. Strong! At this time, everyone could clearly feel that Li Mubai, who seemed to have gone crazy, had once again broken through his own limits with this punch, and an extremely terrifying power erupted. Qi! Qi! As Qin Hao punched out, his body bloomed with dazzling light, and the energy of heaven and earth within 1,000 miles surged and was almost drained in an instant. At the same time, everyone was shocked to find that Qin Hao's punch was rapidly increasing in size. Not only did it drain the energy of heaven and earth, but it also drained Qin Hao's spirit, physical strength, and true essence under the connection of Qin Hao's divine thoughts. Ah! A crazed and furious roar gushed out from Qin Hao's mouth, but this time, everyone could hear the extreme terror and pain contained within it. What's going on? Confusion and sparks appeared in everyone's hearts. Oh no! 9 restrictions. Rumble. When Qin Hao's heaven-defying punch collided with Zhang Chang's 10,000 saber energies, an earth-shattering airwave erupted. At this moment, the peak late-stage master of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm who was guarding the martial arts practice field exclaimed, "Oh no," and suddenly attacked. At the same time, the words, 9 restrictions, came from the 5th Great Elder's mouth. He disappeared from the palace, as if he had broken through the void and arrived above the training field with a single step. He arrived before Qin Hao, and his brilliant celestial light enveloped Qin Hao. Bam! However, before the immortal light could reach him, Qin Hao's body, which had been sucked dry by the lightning sparks, turned into fine powder and scattered into the void. His physical body was destroyed. 5th Grand Elder, save me! In the horrifying explosion, Li Mubai's vital spirit cried for help in horror. Qi! The immortal light, which had paused for a moment, suddenly penetrated the layers of explosions and protected Qin Hao's vital spirit. At the same time, all the raging saber energy and fist energy suddenly disappeared. The world suddenly became extremely quiet, and not even a wisp of dust was left. Everyone was shocked by this sudden turn of events. They stared blankly at the martial arts practice field, at the 5th Grand Elder who stood proudly, at Li Mubai's vital spirit who was enveloped in the immortal light, and at Zhang Chong, who was also dumbfounded. No. It's not me. I didn't expect. Zhang Chong looked at the 5th Grand Elder in horror and said with trepidation. I've failed in my duty. Please punish me, 5th Grand Elder. Hung Meng, who was guarding the martial arts practice field, bowed down and said with an embarrassed expression. Although he knew that this was not his responsibility, he could not avoid being blamed for not stopping it in advance. The 5th Grand Elder's expression was ugly. He took a deep breath, as if to calm the struggle in his heart, and then said, Forget it, this has nothing to do with you. Ninth limit. This kid actually broke through the ninth limit and exploded with power that his physical body could not bear. Crash, the fifth Grand Elder's words caused the entire martial arts practice field to explode. Breaking through the ninth limit and exploding with power that exceeded one's physical body, what kind of concept was that? Fifth Grand Elder, my physical body, is gone, gone. Chen Hao's vital spirit said in extreme pain. It's fine if you don't want it. It seems that your physical body is the biggest obstacle to your improvement. The ninth limit. How many years has it been? In our Hunyuan sect, in the Daluo Golden Wonderland, only a few people have been able to break through. Master, I'll help you reconstruct your golden body. Qi. The fifth Grand Elder's immortal light enveloped Chen Hao's vital spirit and disappeared from the martial arts practice field. Master. Master, the fifth Grand Elder really took Li Mubai as his disciple. Wu Shan will continue to write. Today, he still exploded. Looking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you. Chapter 952. Amazing. No wonder the fifth Grand Elder took a fancy to him. He was able to break through the limit of the 9 limits when he unleashed his potential. This explosive power is too strong. A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at with new eyes. Li Mubai's words yesterday were not boasting shamelessly. Even the top geniuses of our Hunyuan sect would find it difficult to achieve such an explosive power. This shows that his soul power and comprehension are extremely strong, but his body and bloodline origin are too weak. This is the reason why his combat strength is limited. The explosion just now broke through the limit of his strength and reached the 9 limits. As a result, the energy in his body was directly sucked dry, causing his body to collapse. Yes, the fifth Grand Elder just said that he would help him reconstruct his golden body. With the fifth Grand Elder's foundation, how can the reconstructed golden body be weak? It will definitely be stronger than the original one. That's for sure. However, the reconstruction of the golden body is still a reconstruction of the golden body after all. No matter how high the grade of the spiritual items used is, they are not the most compatible with his soul. Moreover, the most important thing is his own fusion ability. This is not something that the fifth Grand Elder can help with. On this day, the news that Li Mubai had broken the limit of the 9 limits and destroyed his body spread throughout the Hunyuan sect. The top 20 geniuses of the Daluo Golden Wonderland were all slightly surprised and began to pay attention to this small matter that they had previously disdained. Some of the elders who knew the real reason why Li Mubai was able to obtain the right to enter the secret grotto heaven finally realized that the sect leader's decision to give this place to Li Mubai was not so random. After some of the Grand Elders received the news, they all inquired about Li Mubai's situation. A few of the Grand Elders who were on good terms with the fifth Grand Elder directly went to congratulate him. The fifth Grand Elder did not have a successor because he was too picky. He could not compete with the sect leader, the first Grand Elder, and some old fellows who had not appeared for a long time. Those who were slightly weaker than him were not worthy of his attention. This time, he finally managed to snatch someone he was satisfied with. At this point, Li Mubai's strength was still far from the top dozens of masters in the Hunyuan sect, but no one doubted his qualification to enter the secret land. He had already become the fifth Grand Elder's disciple. Just this point alone was enough to prove that he was not someone who was favored. Moreover, Li Mubai's progress in a short 300 years was indeed shocking. More importantly, he had triggered the 9 restrictions. This was something that no one had expected 2 days ago. Chi 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 chi, immortal rays were lingering deep inside the fifth great elder's palace. Rules of Tao were rolling. Thick and pure chi of the heavens and earth lingered in the air. Chen Hao's primordial spirit was floating with his eyes closed. Fifth Grand Elder Tian Wanxiang sat cross-legged in front of Chen Hao's primordial spirit. Both of them frowned as they looked at the pile of black ash in front of them. Strange, it's really strange, a body that has clearly been destroyed into ashes still contains a weak vitality, and it's still gradually strengthening. What's going on? Fifth Grand Elder, Could it be that Mubai's body is not as simple as it looks? It's a kind of bloodline inheritance that we have never heard of. Tian Wanxiang scratched his head and cheeks in confusion. The reason why the fifth Grand Elder took back Chen Hao's destroyed body was to restore the vitality of his original bloodline with the supreme divine power. Then, he would use it as a foundation to strengthen the original bloodline and transform it. This way, the reconstructed golden body would increase the degree of fusion between Li Mubai and it. Even if Li Mubai's original bloodline would definitely taint the powerful original bloodline that was added, it would be worth it. Otherwise, if the degree of fusion was too low, it would be very difficult for Chen Hao's body to grow in the future. Moreover, it might cause the spirit and body to be separated. That would be a serious problem. But what puzzled the fifth Grand Elder Tian Wanxiang was that the black ash of Li Mubai's body had already emitted an extremely weak vitality before the fifth Grand Elder took action. It's possible. Little Tian, you know Mubai's background, right? Of course I know. I raised him single-handedly. He's a father, a mother, and a master. He's the son of my elder brother's son's daughter. They're all very ordinary. To be able to produce a junior like Mubai, he's already a genius among the geniuses of my elder brother's bloodline. If that's the case, then it can only mean that Mubai's own bloodline's origin has mutated. To have collapsed to such an extent, there shouldn't be any vitality. But now, it's emitting vitality, and it's still slowly strengthening. This might be the true immortal bloodline's origin. Ah! Tian Wanxiang naturally knew what the true immortal bloodline's origin meant. It was a monster with an almost indestructible body. Unless its soul's origin was also destroyed, its body would be able to repair itself no matter what kind of damage it received. If his body doesn't collapse, I'm afraid he'll never be able to awaken. It's a blessing in disguise. Ha 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 ha, what made Tian Wanxiang stare was that the fifth Grand Elder actually looked up to the sky and laughed loudly as he spoke. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of body my disciples will have after he breaks down and re-establishes himself. Tian Wanxiang was speechless at the fifth Grand Elder's, my disciple, but of course, he wouldn't refute. He said, Fifth Grand Elder, then, what should we do now? What should we do? We don't need to do anything. This vitality is still slowly growing. We just need to place Mubai's primordial spirit together with it and provide it with abundant spiritual qi of heaven and earth. When the body reorganizes itself, it will be a rebirth and self-evolution. The compatibility will be 100%. It's much better than reconstructing the golden body. That's true. I really didn't expect my disciple to have so many hidden talents. Fifth Grand Elder, you're still the best. If I didn't have an intersection with you this time, I'm afraid he would have been buried by me. It's good that you know. So, don't say that I stole your disciple. How can that be? It's Mubai's blessing to have a master like you, and it's also my blessing. Ha ha ha. Fifth Grand Elder, Mubai can be considered to have a bloodline inheritance relationship with me. My body hasn't collapsed yet. Do you think, if my body collapses, it's possible for the same situation to happen? I don't mind you trying. If you fail, I can give you my bloodline origin to help you reconstruct your golden body. Cough, cough, forget it. Although your bloodline origin is strong, if you can really absorb half of the golden body when you reconstruct it, it's already very high. And I'm already at the peak of Hongmeng. I don't have much potential to unearth. What a pity, what a pity. When I was young, why didn't I collapse once? Tian Wanxiang seemed to be regretful as he said. Chapter 953. No matter how strong the bloodline origin was and how powerful the divine sense of the person who reconstructed the golden body was, it was extremely difficult for the reconstructed golden body to obtain even 1/10 of the attributes of the bloodline origin. Otherwise, those legendary physiques would have become common goods that could be found everywhere on the streets. Alright, don't mention Mubai's bloodline origin to anyone for the time being. Just treat it as me reconstructing the golden body for him. Well, okay, in the Hunyuan sect, Due to Li Mubai's strong rise and Zhang Chang's failure in his battle with Chen Hao, he took the initiative to challenge the disciples who were ranked at the top, triggering a competition among the genius disciples of the Daluo Golden Wonderland in advance. Everyone wanted to show their true strength and potential before the list was announced to increase their chances of being selected. In the end, only the top 20 geniuses remained calm and did not make a move. As long as there were no accidents, it was basically safe for them. There was no need for them to lower themselves to show off. Almost at the same time, the Daluo Golden Wonderland geniuses of the other top sects in the vast thousand chaotic world were also facing similar situations in the Hunyuan sect. However, this chaos had nothing to do with Chen Hao. He had successfully completed the second step of the purloining. The Sun Li Mubai's physical body had collapsed and his real body had been reconstructed. All of this had been planned by Chen Hao. Otherwise, when Chen Hao was fighting with Zhang Chong, he would not have provoked the other party so recklessly, even using the threat that he would become stronger in the future. What he wanted was to infuriate Zhang Chong so that he would deal a heavy blow. Then, he would use the 9 restrictions, which he could not control, to completely destroy Li Mubai's stinky body. However, before he destroyed it, he had fused his essence blood into Li Mubai's body. That was why his body, which had collapsed into slag, was emitting vitality and slowly strengthening. Of course, if it were anyone else doing this, it would undoubtedly be very dangerous. If they were not careful, even if they did not die, their soul would be severely injured. However, for someone like Chen Hao who could even achieve nirvana of his true self, there was no pressure at all. Ancient Chaos Great Thousand World, 10 Square Territory. As the name implied, the 10-direction territory was under the joint control of the 10 galaxies. This also meant that no one could control it. This was the battlefield where the 10 major galaxies of the ancient Chaos Great Thousand Realms clashed. It was also the most dangerous and cruel training ground under the Daluo Golden Wonderland in the ancient Chaos Great Thousand Realms. It was dangerous and cruel. At any moment, they could face the attacks of experts from other races or even their own race. They were constantly on the brink of death. However, there were also endless opportunities in the 10-direction territory, as well as the energy necessary for the Daluo Golden Wonderland to break through to the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm, Hongmeng Qi, and the Mark of the Great World that could only be refined by experts in the Hongmeng realm. Daluo Jingxian, in the ancient Chaos Great Thousand Realms, wanted to break through to the Hongmeng realm. The only choice was to enter the 10-direction territory to train. The human race's vast universe galaxy and the other 9 galaxies had jointly signed a supreme treaty. Here, only cultivators below the Daluo Golden Wonderland could step into this place. If any party violated the treaty, they would be subject to the joint punishment of the 9 parties. Chi 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 chi, several streamers cut through the sky, toward the space barrier, and suddenly appeared in the space at the edge of the 10-direction territory. Immediately, as fast as lightning, they disappeared into a remote barren mountain. The streamers were not in the shape of humans, but miniature flying machines. If Chen Hao saw this at this moment, he would definitely howl with excitement. Unfortunately, he was thousands of times more miserable than the cowherd and the weaver girl, so it was impossible for him to see it. The 10-direction territory. Hongmeng has just opened. Hongmeng Qi. The world here is indeed different. Finally, we're in. Ha ha ha. From today on, our Outyen will kill in the 10-direction territory. Watch me, Pan Long, comprehend Hongmeng Qi, obtain the mark of the great world, create a new world, and trample on Hongmeng. I say, Brother Pan, can you keep a low profile? Do you think this is the vast universe galaxy? Do you think the boss is with us? Before we came, Uncle told us to be careful. Don't take it lightly. Fuck, bug, can't I get excited? Boss, why did you mention boss? As Pan Long spoke, his rough and fierce face became extremely gloomy. His bell-like eyes, which were shining with excitement, dimmed at this moment. Senior brother, it's been 10,000 years, where is senior brother now? When can we see him again? I'm sorry. Du Jing could not help but say this. As soon as he finished speaking, he regretted it. Unfortunately, it was too late. Pan Long had already become like this, let alone Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, and the others. For a moment, everyone who had just stepped into the 10-direction territory was silent. Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, Long Ting, Tan Tai Lian, Xia Yuyu, Huan Huan, and Lei Lei, all turned their faces away and looked up at the void as if they were looking through the Milky Way. It had been 10,000 years. Where was he? How was he now? In these 10,000 years, they had experienced a lot. In addition to continuously praying for Qin Hao according to Yilan's request, they had been cultivating crazily to improve themselves. The wait was too long. Only by cultivating crazily could they temporarily put everything aside. Now, under the full cultivation of Yilan, Chen Wuyang, Han Mei, Shui Mei, and the others, they, Pan Long, Du Jing, Lan Feng, Li Yang, and Chen Ling had all advanced to the peak of the late stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. As long as they comprehended the Hongmeng Qi and obtained the Great World Mark, they could try to break the barrier and trigger the heavenly punishment. If they stepped into the Hongmeng realm, they could step out of the ancient chaos universe and search for Qin Hao's traces. Hu Meinyang and Bailey Ningbing had joined the Proud Heavens Association 10,000 years ago. Their relationship with the other girls was harmonious under the matchmaking of Han Mei and Shui Mei, the two true immortals. At this moment, they had also come with the others. No one would come to the 10-direction territory alone, not even Hu Meinyang. Chen Hua and Chen Yan were extremely talented. Today, after 10,000 years, they had grown to the same realm as Chen Shui and the others. Moreover, their strength was not weak. Boss will definitely come back. Our Proud Heavens Association is getting stronger and stronger, and we're gathering more and more faith. Senior Yi already said that the faith we gathered is all gone. Naturally, it's connected to the 9 heavens and 10 lands and was accepted by Boss. So, we'd better focus on improving ourselves. When we step into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, if Boss doesn't come back, it'll be the time for us to set out together to find Boss. Du Jing was also in a bad mood, but he knew he could no longer keep silent. In the 10-direction territory, there were countless Daluo Golden Wonderland geniuses from the 10 major galaxies, as well as old guys who had been there for tens of thousands of years and specialized in cannibalism. Even if their team was strong, it was still very dangerous. Chapter 954. That's right. Sisters-in-law, brothers and sisters, there's no need to think too much. To tell you the truth, I've been having a strong intuition lately, so I've been divining. Lan Feng suddenly said. What intuition? What are you divining? Everyone looked over at Lan Feng, including some of the golden immortal geniuses who had never seen Qin Hao before, but who had become core generals of Proud Heaven, all looked over at him. In the 10,000 years that had passed, Lan Feng had become famous in the Proud Heavens Society as the Son of Destiny. His destiny was the envy of many, and no one could compare to him. Of course, that was all because of his terrifying intuition. In fact, Lan Feng's intuition was like Qin Hao's fiery eyes of truth. It was an innate ability. And now, he had used this innate ability to practice the art of divination. His progress was astonishing. Every time I recited the scriptures and prayed for Boss, I felt like he was watching us. When I prayed before we came, I had a strong feeling that Boss was coming back. So I divined that perhaps after we stepped into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, Boss would return in a way that would shock the entire vast universe galaxy. I divined and saw it. It's in the near future. I can't see the exact time, but it won't be more than 50,000 years. 50,000 years is nothing to us. 1,000 years can pass in the blink of an eye. At that time, whether or not all of us will be able to step into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm will be a problem. Are you serious, Lan Feng? Of course it's true. Brother Pan, don't you have faith in my character and integrity? My great divination art has reached an advanced level, and it'll be even more accurate if I improve further. Now, let's focus on improving our strength. Otherwise, when boss comes back, we won't even be worthy of carrying his shoes. That would be embarrassing. Whether your divination is true or not, now is not the time for us to be distracted. There are more than 100 of us here, and we didn't hide the news before coming. I'm sure the 10 major galaxies already know that we've entered the 10 directions territory. It's inevitable that many people will come specifically for us. Hu Mainyang said after looking at Lan Feng for a few seconds. This made Lan Feng sweat profusely. He naturally knew that he couldn't hide it from Hu Mainyang, who had already broken through to the 10th stage of the Red Dust Heart Sutra. However, he wasn't completely lying to everyone, at least some of it was true, not bad. This is exactly what we want. Proud Heaven's name will rise from this day forth in the 10 directions domain. Du Jing said, trying to boost morale. Alright, there's no need to comfort us. We know what to do. Let's disperse for the time being and stay in the vicinity. If anything happens, contact me at any time. Chen Shui said. Good. Let's disperse here. Brother Pan, don't lose to me in the comprehension of Hong Meng Qi. Du Jing said with a faint smile. After he finished speaking, he turned into a ray of light, chose a direction, and quickly flew away. You? In your dreams. Coiling Dragon said disdainfully. He collected himself and left quickly. When Chen Shui saw that the girl still didn't move, even though she wasn't in a good mood, she still directly blended into the universe and left first. 10,000 years. How long would it be for a man and a woman who were passionately in love who hadn't even started their true life as Tao companions? Unfortunately, they couldn't cut off their thoughts like Chen Hao and seal them. Unless it was to erase their memories, but they would never do that. It was a very simple thing for a freak like Chen Hao, but it wasn't something that others in the same realm could do. Chen Hao, who was still in the process of reconstructing his physical body, naturally didn't know the situation of the women and brothers and sisters in the endless Star River. He also didn't know that the space-time law of the Star River in the chaotic universe was very different from the Star River in the ancient chaos universe. From the battle with Xiao Yan until now, it had only been less than 1,000 years, but 10,000 years had passed in the vast universe galaxy. Fortunately, his relatives and friends were not ordinary people. Otherwise, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, no one knew how many times they would have died in the 6 paths of reincarnation. Half a month later. In the palace of the 5th Grand Elder. It's formed. It's really fast. Even the reconstruction of the golden body is not so fast. Tian Wanxiang looked at the gradually clear human figure, rubbed his hands and said excitedly. But suddenly, he made a strange sound of surprise. What's wrong? The 5th Grand Elder frowned. 5th Grand Elder, look carefully. The nose that pops out has already formed, it seems a little wrong. Hearing Tian Wanxiang's words, the 5th Grand Elder was slightly stunned. He really didn't pay attention to the appearance. Looking carefully, the nose had indeed become much higher than the original slightly flat nose of Li Mubai. There's nothing strange. After the mutation of the bloodline origin, it's not strange that his appearance has changed, as long as he doesn't become a woman. I don't have the habit of accepting female disciples. Ha! That's true. I do want to accept female disciples, but unfortunately, the talented female disciples don't follow me. Little Tian, you're an elder, don't tell me you still have other thoughts. I didn't before, but now I do. In my Tian family, my elder brother's bloodline has already withered to the point that there's no one left. But Mubai's bloodline origin actually hides such an amazing physique, maybe. If I die and reproduce a few generations, maybe there'll be another Mubai. Then I'll be satisfied. You. The 5th Grand Elder was completely defeated by Tian Wanxiang. Another 3 days later, Chen Hao's body finally formed completely. What made the 5th Grand Elder and Tian Wanxiang shocked and happy was that this body was simply the most perfect one they had ever seen. There wasn't a trace of flaw on the whole body. The body was slender, the lines were well-proportioned and beautiful, the key parts were quite masculine, and the appearance was a rare handsome man. The most important thing was that the bloodline chi contained in this body was really majestic to an amazing degree. Compared to this, Li Mubai's body was simply trash. What a disaster. Fifth Grand Elder, this guy's change is too amazing, isn't it? We're both men, but it makes me envious. In addition, with Mubai's current talent, isn't he a female killer? Master. What do you mean? Right at this moment, Qin Hao scoffed as he suddenly stood up, and he looked at Tian Wanxiang with a puzzled expression as he asked. Obviously, his primordial spirit and body had been completely integrated, without the slightest barrier, and there was no need for time to adapt. Look at yourself. Qi. Tian Wanxiang directly sent out a stream of energy, which condensed into a mirror. Ah! When Qin Hao saw this, he immediately let out a cry of surprise. This is me. Ha ha ha. Disciple, quickly put on your clothes. Your current appearance is quite similar to your master's demeanor in the past. Very good, very good. The fifth Grand Elder looked at Qin Hao's dark and deep eyes, which were as bright as stars, and was very satisfied. Just this appearance alone could be called a dragon or phoenix among men. Chapter 955. The fifth elder's words made Tian Wanxiang's old face twitch. This was obviously his style back then, okay? In any case, there was a bit of bloodline inheritance between them. Hiss. Hiss. Phew, so comfortable. With a flash between his eyebrows, Qin Hao took out Li Mubai's robe and put it on. Feeling the comfortable feeling that came from his original body that was completely compatible with his soul, he could not help but say. Then he frowned slightly and said, Fifth. Master, what's going on with me? I feel that my physical body is unprecedentedly strong. My true essence, chi, and spirit have more than doubled. Now, my battle strength may increase by several times. That's only natural. This is the evolution of your bloodline source. It's a true rebirth, a cleansing of your meridians and marrow. Your physical body is much stronger than before, and this is only in the state of rebirth. After you temper yourself for a period of time, you'll become even stronger. Before, your soul and comprehension were far superior to your physical body. They were restricted and limited your progress. Now, your physical body has evolved to the point where it is perfectly compatible with your soul. In a short period of time, your strength will increase greatly. Oh, thank you, Master. What are you thanking me for? This is all because of your own body. Go to my mental world and choose a set of soft armor and a few weapons. I will use my mind to help you familiarize yourself with your current strength. Tomorrow, I will officially accept you as my disciple. Well, Tian Xiang, you should also help Mubai familiarize himself with his strength. Yes, fifth elder. Tian Wanxiang said with a slightly excited expression. The fifth elder did not call him Xiao Tian this time. Obviously, he had officially recognized his existence. This was completely due to his disciple's glory. Moreover, the fifth elder allowed him to enter his mental world. Naturally, it was not as simple as helping Li Mubai familiarize himself with his strength. A hole opened between the fifth grand elder's eyebrows. Qin Hao and Tian Wanxiang immediately turned into two streams of light and entered the fifth grand elder's mind world. No way. So many. Qin Hao and Tian Wanxiang directly appeared in a palace in the fifth grand elder's mind. What entered his eyes was a dazzling array of magic treasures. Any one of them was at the level of a divine tool. Sabers, spears, swords, staffs, gourds, pagoda tablets, silk nets, bells, drums, soft armor, gloves, whips, and other divine magic treasures overflowed with light as they floated quietly in the palace. Even Qin Hao, who possessed a large treasury, could not help but sigh at the powerful foundation of a true immortal expert. Without a doubt, this was only the warehouse of divine magic treasures for him to choose from. It was probably only the tip of the iceberg of the fifth Grand Elder's collection. On the other hand, Tian Wenxiang's eyes widened in shock. This guy was a peak expert in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. These sacred artifacts, even if they were supreme-grade sacred artifacts, were not very attractive to him. However, the number of sacred artifacts made him envious. Tian Wenxiang said, "Disciple, you have to choose carefully. There are many superior sacred artifacts here. They will be very important before you reach the middle stage of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm." "Yes, Master. There's no need. You just need to choose the most suitable for your current use. You can come in and exchange for Master's things at any time. This was originally prepared for you. When you advance to the Hongmeng realm, it will be easy for Master to get some pseudo-immortal artifacts from you. Of course, don't be fooled by the magic treasures. Your own cultivation is the most important at all times." At this moment, the fifth Grand Elder, who was manifested by his divine sense, also appeared beside the two of them and said, "Yes, Master. In the future, call me Master. Call Tian Xiang Master." The fifth Grand Elder said with a slight smile. He had snatched Tian Wenxiang's disciple. This was something that could not be changed no matter what. Moreover, he could also see that Tian Wenxiang and Li Mubai had a very good master-disciple relationship. They could even be considered to have a little bloodline inheritance. Therefore, he could not treat Tian Wenxiang unfairly. In fact, it was almost the same as taking in two disciples. However, Tian Wenxiang could only give a few pointers as a junior. "Yes, Master." Chen Hao responded respectfully. After he finished speaking, his eyes flickered, and he quickly walked toward a golden spear that was emitting a strong murderous aura. The fifth Grand Elder did not think much of it. However, Tian Wenxiang was slightly surprised. Li Mubai mainly cultivated the law of magical powers. He was not interested in weapons. The only thing he was best at was swords. Moreover, he did not like magic treasures with a strong murderous aura. However, at this moment, Chen Hao's gaze was directed at the long spear that was blooming with a strong murderous aura. That's true. Previously, this kid was limited by his own strength and did not like weapons with a strong murderous aura. Now that he has been reborn and has the support of the fifth Grand Elder, he has to be more high-profile. Tian Wenxiang thought in his heart. Immediately, he carefully sized up the golden spear. The spear was 2.6 meters long and was completely golden. However, the spearhead was surging with a strong blood aura. The spear's soul was like a bloodthirsty monster, circulating in the golden light. The tip of the spear was blood red, emitting a cold light in all directions. The surrounding magic treasures emitted a treasure aura that seemed to automatically avoid the spear aura. It was quite a domineering king's aura. This golden spear is called the Overlord Spear. I obtained it in an ancient ruin. The spear's soul is extremely domineering and has not been destroyed for hundreds of millions of years. I don't know how many massacres it has experienced to give birth to such a murderous spear soul. If it recognizes you as its master, you can obtain the Overlord Spear technique contained in it. When combined with the spear itself, the power will increase by more than 30%. Why, have you taken a fancy to this spear? Yes, Master. Disciple lacked sharpness before. Now that Master has enlightened me, my body and soul have improved. The aura of this spear is exactly what disciple needs. Oh. Then you can give it a try. Subdue it first and then recognize it as its master. The fifth Grand Elder said. A divine weapon with a weapon soul, if it was an ownerless item, could be refined with a drop of blood and it would recognize its master and be used. However, if one wanted to use it before it recognized its master, it would not be so simple. One could only rely on one's own will and strength to subdue the weapon's soul and activate it. After subduing it and recognizing it as its master, the compatibility between the divine weapon and its master would be much stronger than directly refining it with a drop of blood. Good. Chi. A violent and fierce aura suddenly gushed out from between Chen Hao's brows. His essence, energy, spirit, true essence, fleshly body, pressure, and will pressed down towards the Overlord's spear that was floating in the air. Boom! At this moment, the Overlord's spear suddenly released a strong killing intent. A blood-red spear light surged out, trying to resist Chen Hao's control. What a powerful spear soul! At this time, Tian Wanxiang was surprised. Even he did not expect that the spear's soul could burst out with such a powerful killing intent. In an instant, he seemed to see countless spear lights piercing towards Chen Hao. The fifth Grand Elder also looked at it with bright eyes. He was very clear about this Overlord spear. When he tamed it and brought it back, it took him a lot of effort. If he wanted to tame it, he had to stimulate a killing intent that was not inferior to the Overlord's spear, or an indestructible will. Besides these 2 points, true essence and soul force were useless. He was looking forward to how long it would take for his new disciple to subdue it. Today is still the same. Looking for monthly votes. We are moving forward. Brothers and sisters, can you put in more effort? Thank you. Chapter 956. What a strong will to massacre. After a short contact, Chen Hao thought to himself in surprise and excitement. The reason why he took a fancy to this Overlord's spear was because of the strong murderous aura it emitted. Although the sky-stealing sun-swapping had succeeded, he still needed to change Tian Wanxiang and the fifth Grand Elder's perception of him bit by bit through various methods if he wanted to truly display his true strength without restraint. He could not display it too suddenly or too exaggeratedly. Moreover, more importantly, the real aura of his original body was only at the early stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. The aura he released now was completely fused with Li Mubai's soul origin. If he was not careful, it would collapse. In the entire world of cultivation, it was inevitable to increase one's realm. If one's realm regressed, it would be abnormal. The key was that it was even more impossible to increase one's strength while regressing. If Chen Hao was unable to fully display the power of his original body, it was basically impossible for him to increase his own realm. This was also what Chen Hao needed to do first. Compared to when I was in the heavenly immortal stage, he is much stronger. How much killing did he have to go through to refine the spear soul to such a level? Chen Hao became more and more excited. He really wanted to try if his current will to massacre could suppress it, but unfortunately, the previous Li Mubai was a coward who bullied the weak and feared the strong. It was impossible for him to have such a strong will to massacre. Therefore, Chen Hao could only use his indestructible will of soul to resist the will to massacre, step by step, and subdue it. Understanding this point, Chen Hao immediately retracted his true essence and spirit. Only the space between his eyebrows shone brightly as he steadily approached the Overlord's spear. At the same time, he also changed the expression on his face appropriately. He did not appear too relaxed or too difficult. In one breath, he resisted the terrifying murderous aura and walked to the side of the Overlord's spear. The moment Chen Hao stretched out his hand to grab the spearhead and spearhead suddenly exploded with a bang, releasing a sound that sounded like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves. At this moment, Chen Hao seemed to see the scene of corpses strewn all over the ground and blood flowing like a river. Even his mind was slightly shaken. Chen Hao naturally could easily break through it, but he didn't do so. Instead, he chose to temporarily merge with it. His eyes also became dull in an instant, as if he was attracted by the killing intent that bloomed. Just as the fifth Grand Elder Tian Wanxiang held his breath and waited for a few seconds, Chen Hao let out a cold snort. The space between his eyebrows and both of his eyes blossomed with a resplendent light at the same time, and his eyes regained their clarity. At this moment, all of the phenomena released by the Overlord's spear disappeared, and it was obediently held in Chen Hao's hands. Chi! Chen Hao thrust out his spear lightly. The spear light flickered, and a blood-red waterfall exploded in front of Xiao Chen's eyes. Good spear! Chen Hao exclaimed excitedly. On the other hand, the fifth Grand Elder was slightly stunned. It was done so easily. The corner of his mouth twitched, and he resisted the urge to show it. Not bad, it seems like this overlord's spear is quite suitable for you. Recognize it as your master. Once you obtain the overlord's spear arts contained within, you will be like a tiger that has grown wings. Master, there's no rush. I'll pick another sword and a pair of gloves. You brat. Alright, up to you. Fifth Grand Elder, is it because Mubai's willpower is too strong, or is this overlord's spear just terrifying on the surface, but ordinary in reality? When Chen Hao walked towards a treasured sword, Tian Wanxiang asked through sound transmission. He had not personally tried it, so he naturally did not know the true situation of the overlord's spear. He always felt that the process of his disciple subduing was a little too easy. When I obtained it back then, I was also at the peak of the late stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland, and the process of subduing it took me a full hour. What do you think of it? Mubai, it's lucky that I met this brat. Otherwise, he would have been buried by you. Cough cough. That's right, that's right. Tian Wanxiang was shocked. He awkwardly avoided the fifth Grand Elder's intimidating gaze and looked at his precious disciple again. Damn, when the fifth Grand Elder was at the same level, he took an hour, but this brat only took a few minutes. What kind of concept was this? The fifth Grand Elder was a super genius who had advanced to the Cutting Dao True Immortal level. Even among the Cutting Dao True Immortals, he was an extremely powerful existence. How strong was his talent back then? However, his disciple, who was still an ordinary mess more than 100 years ago, had actually displayed willpower that surpassed that of the fifth Grand Elder back then. Tian Wanxiang could not help but be shocked and ashamed at the same time. Indeed, without the fifth Grand Elder, Li Mubai might still be immersed in a muddle-headed state and would not be ranked at all in the Hunyuan sect. Chen Hao quickly chose a supreme-grade sacred artifact sword and a pair of scarlet gloves that radiated cold light. Its aura was very similar to that of the Overlord's spear, and it also contained a weapon soul. However, it was not very powerful, and Chen Hao easily subdued it. Choose another set of soft armor, the fifth Grand Elder said. Master, I don't need the soft armor. My physical body has been recondensed and needs to be tempered. Moreover, I have such a powerful bloodline mutation, so I don't have to worry about anything. Haha. Well said. However, I don't want you to use it now. I just want you to refine it in advance. My expectations for you now are not limited to the secret realm and the grotto heaven. In the secret realm and the grotto heaven, as long as you can advance to the peak of the Daluo Golden Wonderland, you will obtain 20 places to directly enter the Holy Land of the Immortal Sutra. I want you to enter the Holy Land of the Immortal Sutra. At that time, you will face the top geniuses of the entire chaotic universe. The fifth Grand Elder said with an impassioned look. Before Li Mubai's physical body was destroyed, this was something that he had never even thought about. His greatest wish was for Li Mubai to be able to improve greatly in the secret realm and advance to the full circle realm. Moreover, he would also be able to obtain the qualifications of the 20 people promised by the sect master. At that time, it would be an eye-opener in the final competition. But now, he didn't think so. Although the hope was still not great, after all, Li Mubai awakened too late, and there was not much time left. It was definitely not an eye-opener. Maybe there was hope. Yes, master. I will do my best. Chen Hao was practicing with Tian Wanxiang and the fifth Grand Elder's mind incarnation. When he was practicing wholeheartedly in the fifth Grand Elder's mind world, the 30 places of the Hunyuan sect's secret realm and the grotto heaven were also announced. Chen Hao was on the list, and he was ranked 27th. Such a result made many people stare blankly. But the fifth Grand Elder was disdainful. 27. Not to mention a few months later when the secret realm and grotto heaven opened, even now, Chen Hao's combat power could be ranked in the top 3 or 4 places, and this was a conservative estimate. Of course, the fifth Grand Elder naturally wouldn't show it. He was looking forward to his disciple, once again, to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Entered. Ha 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 ha. I, Zhang Chong, entered. 30th place, ha ha ha. In front of the name list on the pagoda stele, the nervous Zhang Chong saw that his name was at the bottom of the list. He began to laugh wildly in excitement. In the past month, he had been crazily challenging people. Finally, there was an effect. Chapter 957. Li Mubai is ranked 27th. This is a comprehensive ranking, not just based on combat strength. Li Mubai has improved so much in just a few hundred years. The last time he fought with Zhang Chong, he even triggered the 9 restrictions, so it's normal for him to be ranked 27th. But his physical body is very weak and has already collapsed. Even if the 5th Grand Elder helped him reconstruct his golden body, it will become a factor that restricts him when he reaches the Hongmeng realm. Well, the 5th Grand Elder is not our teacher, but a top expert among the cutting Dao perfected immortals. He definitely has a way to improve his compatibility with his physical body. Zhang Chong was selected this time, but not the next time. But Li Mubai. Unless he breaks through to the Hongmeng realm, he will definitely dominate for 1,000 years. After all, with his combat strength, it is impossible for him to qualify for the Holy Land of the Immortal Scripture within 1,000 years. When he qualifies for the Holy Land of the Immortal Scripture, as long as he can comprehend a little, he will not be excluded. Our Hunyuan sect will basically become the 21 sects occupying the secret grotto heaven for a long time, unless they don't want to enter. The Holy Land of the Immortal Scripture opened once every 10 years, and 1,000 people could enter each time. This was for Daluo Jingxian in the entire vast 1,000 chaotic world. It was definitely an extremely low ratio of 1 in 100 million. If it was just this, it would be fine. Every time 1,000 people entered, at least 900 of them were old fellows who had entered before, or even several times. Every 10 years, as long as you obtained the qualification with your own strength, you could enter. Of course, if the cultivators who entered did not have any comprehension of the immortal scripture, they would be directly excluded from the sect and would not be qualified to enter in the future. But as long as they had a little comprehension, they could participate in the competition. It was also because of the existence of this rule that very little new blood entered the Holy Land of the Immortal Scripture every 10 years. In the entire vast 1,000 chaotic world, the only cultivators who could enter in their lifetime were the top geniuses of the generation. The Hunyuan sect's secret grotto heaven was originally established for the Holy Land of the Immortal Scripture, so the model was naturally the same. The reason why the top 20 were said to be unshakable was because 20 of them had entered the secret realm at least twice. The top 5 had even entered the sacred land of the immortal scripture. Who could shake it? Because of this, only a few newcomers, such as Li Mubai and Zhang Chong, received the most attention. A few months after the announcement of the name list, although it was much quieter than the previous month, it did not quiet down. Zhang Chong and a few disciples who were lucky enough to get 30 places received several challenges one after another. It was no less than the situation when people wanted to force Chen Hao to voluntarily give up his place. However, no one challenged Li Mubai this time. Li Mubai hadn't relied on his battle prowess. This had been publicly acknowledged after he triggered the 9 restrictions. Challenging him, even if he could win, would be meaningless. Half a year's time had finally passed. On this day, in the deepest part of the Daluo Jingxian Palace district, there was a sea of people. This was the day when the secret realm's grotto heaven would open. The 30 people inside would come out, and Chen Hao and the other 30 people would enter. Of the 30 people who came out, 20 would directly rush to the sacred land of the immortal scripture to prepare to participate in the final competition of the sacred land of the immortal scripture. The other 10 people would have to register themselves and go through layers of selection. Of the 30 people who came out and the 30 who were going in, close to 50 of them would dominate the secret realm's grotto heaven for a long time. They could also be said to be the top 50 people in the Hunyuan sect. Disciple, the time has come. Today is the day you enter the secret realm's grotto heaven. For the time being, put aside the unique skills I taught you. After you enter the secret realm's heavenly access, concentrate on comprehending the Tao marks in it. Strive to obtain a place in the final competition of the sacred land of the immortal scripture with your strength, not the sect leader's promise. Yes, Master. Chi. With a flash of light, Chen Hao, dressed in a blue robe, stepped out of the fifth Grand Elder's mind for the first time after cultivating in seclusion for a few months. His tall and slender figure and handsome appearance made him look otherworldly. The cold light that flashed in his eyes inadvertently contained a soul-stirring power. Less than half a year's time was just the snap of a finger for the masters of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. However, the present Li Mubai was completely different from the Li Mubai of half a year ago. Let's go, Master will take you there, the fifth Grand Elder said with a gratified expression. Master, I can go there myself. How can that be? With your current appearance and aura, no one will believe that you are Li Mubai. You will definitely be caught, haha. That's true. Chen Hao smiled. The next moment, the fifth Grand Elder and Chen Hao appeared on the towering mountain where the secret realm's grotto heaven was located. Greetings, fifth Grand Elder. Immediately, the 10 elders in charge of the secret realm's grotto heaven cupped their fists and bowed. They were all surprised. Who was this young man that the fifth Grand Elder had brought? At the same time, the appearance of the fifth Grand Elder attracted the attention of the cultivators who had been watching the show. They all bowed and stared curiously at Chen Hao. No need to be so polite, I'm just escorting Mubai here. Disciple Li Mubai greets the fifth Grand Elder. Chen Hao hurriedly bowed to the fifth Grand Elder. The fifth Grand Elder represented the Hunyuan sect in charge of the secret realm's grotto heaven. They were extremely senior and belonged to the top elders of the Hunyuan sect who had retired behind the scenes. Apart from the secret realm's grotto heaven, they no longer cared about the sect's affairs. Crash, ah. No way, Chen Hao's words undoubtedly revealed his identity. This was great, it directly caused a huge uproar. No one would have thought that the young man in front of them was Li Mubai. When the golden body was reconstructed, there was a possibility that one's appearance and aura would change, but it would not change too much. But now, was this still the Li Mubai of the past? He was a completely different person. This was absolutely inconceivable. It also caused everyone, including the 5 elders, to be shocked. Just what kind of powerful bloodline origin did the fifth Grand Elder use to change Li Mubai so thoroughly that not even the slightest shadow of his previous self could be found? The fifth Grand Elder is really resourceful. Incredible, incredible, you flatter me. The fifth Grand Elder smiled slightly. After that, he looked at the secret realm's grotto heaven's entrance and the figure sitting cross-legged like a statue. Although the other party seemed to be in meditation and did not move at all, what surprised Chen Hao was that the fifth Grand Elder actually cupped his fists and nodded slightly to him before disappearing in front of the crowd. In Li Mubai's memory, the fifth Grand Elder did not belong to the Hunyuan sect, and no one knew what his cultivation level was. They only knew that the fifth Grand Elder represented the sacred land of the immortal scriptures. Every time the Hunyuan sect's secret realm's grotto heaven opened, he would come and directly choose 10 out of the 30 people who would come out of the secret realm's grotto heaven to qualify for the final competition. The other 10 would be chosen by the fifth Grand Elder of the Hunyuan sect. After that, he would leave with the other 20 people. Previously, the fifth Grand Elder had asked Chen Hao to fight for a spot in the final competition with his own strength. In reality, it was to let Chen Hao be chosen by the fifth Grand Elder and not be chosen by the fifth Grand Elder of the Hunyuan sect. Chapter 958. Is this really Li Mubai? Many pairs of eyes fell on Li Mubai, filled with disbelief and surprise. At this moment, Li Mubai, whether it was the aura emitted from his body or his handsome and elegant appearance, was an eye-catching existence. His handsome face, eyes that were as bright as the stars, tall and slender body, and his boundless vitality and essence, energy, and spirit were all astonishing. Some young cultivators, who had always been conceited about their handsome appearances, looked at Chen Hao with eyes full of jealousy. The eyes of the female cultivators became much brighter. Mubai, Chi. A figure, after hesitating for a long time, finally summoned the courage to fly to Chenhao's side. Her eyes flickered, and her expression was a little excited and nervous. Congratulations, you have obtained the qualification to enter the secret zone. Thank you, Chenhao frowned slightly and said lightly. This was a cultivator at the peak of the late stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland, who could be called a beauty. Li Mubai had a deep impression of her. Li Mubai had pursued her for a long time, but there was no progress. In the end, he was humiliated and completely gave up. In the past, the previous Li Mubai is already dead. Sorry. Chenhao's expression was indifferent. Although it was not cold, it contained a coldness that kept people 1,000 miles away. What kind of joke was this? Not to mention that he was the fake Li Mubai. Even if it was the real Li Mubai, with his current progress, he would not hesitate to slap the face back. The girl's face was red, and she wished she could find a hole to hide in. She had summoned all her courage to come here at this time. Although she did not expect to be able to redeem herself, she was still confident that Li Mubai still liked her. After all, this guy had pursued her for more than 1,000 years. But she did not expect that she would be directly interrupted by the other party before she could even finish her opening remarks. I'm sorry. The girl lowered her head and said in a low voice. Her heart was filled with anger and bitterness. Who would have thought that someone similar to him would become a top genius disciple of the Hunyuan sect in just a few hundred years? If she had foresight, she would have hugged his legs and refused to let go. Unfortunately, she didn't. Amidst the buzzing of the crowd, the girl's face was burning. Under the gazes of countless people, she hurriedly left. She knew that she had lost all her face today. Li Mubai. What Chenhao didn't expect was that just as he helped Li Mubai vent his anger, a cold voice sounded out again. It was Zhang Chong. I will challenge you again. You're welcome anytime. I hope the mystic realm will come out. Oh, no. I mean the end of the Immortal Sutra Sacred Land. You still have the courage to say this. Chenhao still had a faint smile on his face as he spoke with an indifferent and arrogant expression. You despicable man. You must have obtained some powerful opportunity. I'd like to see how long you can maintain this speed of improvement. Humph. You really think you're a top genius? Just you wait. Zhang Chong almost choked to death. He was filled with anger towards Li Mubai. He really didn't expect that Li Mubai, who had turned over a new leaf, would become so arrogant and show off his ability. In fact, not only Zhang Chong, but countless cultivators present felt that the current Li Mubai, whether it was his expression, tone, or words, were too arrogant. In their eyes, Li Mubai was like an upstart who had gotten lucky. If he kept a low profile, perhaps everyone would be able to accept it and praise his good luck. But he actually thought of himself as a monstrous genius. What was there to be arrogant about? I'll wait. Chenhao ignored everyone's gazes. It's noon. Open. Chi 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 chi. At this moment, the 5 old antique elders suddenly shouted softly. At the same time, they raised a token engraved with mysterious runes. As soon as the 5 tokens appeared, they rose into the void and bloomed with brilliant light. It was as if a space-time door had opened and was directly connected to the sealed entrance of the secret realm. Soon after, a rumbling sound could be heard. Qi, a strong and pure wave of spiritual qi burst out from the cave. 30 figures sitting with their legs crossed opened their eyes as if they had been teleported out from the cave. In an instant, the area within a radius of 10,000 miles was enveloped by 30 powerful auras. What a strong guy. Even Chenhao was shocked. Among the 30 people, at least 5 of them gave Chenhao a strong sense of danger. He was certain that it was not something he could contend against at the moment. Chi 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 chi. At this moment, beams of flowing light suddenly streaked across the void. 20 figures with equally powerful auras arrived at lightning speed. These 20 figures were the old men who were going to enter the secret realm with Chenhao, Zhang Chong, and the rest of the 10 people. 20 gazes paused on Chen Hao's body for a moment, seemingly intentionally or unintentionally. Phew. You sects. At this moment, the old man who looked like a statue suddenly stretched his back, shook his messy head, and said something inexplicable. Saint Envoy. 30 people have come out of seclusion. Please take a look and choose. How many times? More than 10 times. Oh, this is the 38th time. The old man's gaze fell on the 30 cultivators who had just come out. At the same time, a mysterious aura enveloped the 30 people. He shook his head like a rattle drum, looked at them again, and finally pointed at them. You, and you. You. It's the 10 of you. The disciples who were pointed at immediately looked excited, especially one of the newcomers, who had thought that there was no hope at all. He was even more excited. The young man with the strongest aura, who had been pointed out by the old man as the 38th time, was not chosen by the old man. He looked a little embarrassed. Although he knew that the 5 elders of the sect would definitely choose him, it was still a very shameful thing. Although you are very strong, it's the 38th time. The amount of comprehension you have gained is really very little. Even if you can participate this time, the old man suggests that you break through when it's time to do so. The 3 great immortal sutras are not necessarily something that can be comprehended with high comprehension and strength. It also depends on fate. The old man looked at the embarrassed young man and said, intentionally or unintentionally. Yes. Senior. All right, you can choose 10, the old man said to the 5 elders. Soon, the 10 people were chosen by the 5 elders. The person with the strongest aura was naturally among them. In fact, this was also for the sake of the sect's reputation. Among the 20 people, there were at most 3 or 4 people in the Hunyuan sect who could really enter the Immortal Sutra land, and they were basically all old men. Even if they knew that very little of them had comprehended the Immortal Sutra, they still had to let them qualify. Otherwise, it would be good enough if even one person from the Hunyuan sect could enter. If that really happened, the Hunyuan sect, as one of the top sects, would be too embarrassing. Chapter 959. Buzz. The old man waved his hand casually, and a spatial door was formed without any energy ripples. Immediately, the old man and the 20 top geniuses who had obtained the qualification to compete in the final round disappeared from everyone's sight. Although Li Mubai had seen it many times, Chen Hao was still shocked when he saw it with his own eyes. What kind of cultivation was required to do that? No wonder the 5th Grand Elder Master bowed to him. The Saint Envoy, the envoy of the sacred ground of the Immortal Sutra, is so powerful. How powerful is the person who controls it? Chen Hao could not imagine. Even if I'm not chosen, I'll fight my way to the sacred ground of the Immortal Sutra with my own strength. Yes, let's go and register together. Buzz 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 buzz, the remaining 10 people gathered their emotions and quickly disappeared from everyone's sight with a strong fighting spirit. Now, the 30 disciples who have obtained the right to enter the secret grotto heaven, please enter immediately for 10 years. I hope you will try your best to comprehend it. No one is allowed to fight or disturb other people's cultivation. Violators will be expelled from the grotto heaven and will never be allowed to enter again. Yes. Buzz 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 buzz, streams of light streaked past as the 30 people impatiently rushed in. Even Chen Hao was no exception. The secret grotto heaven was engraved with the comprehension of the 3 great immortal sutras of the Hunyuan sect. What kind of existence was it? Chen Hao was looking forward to it. Buzz. The moment he passed through the entrance, Chen Hao clearly felt a strong aura of the law of spacetime. Then, he appeared in a huge space with no end in sight. It condensed into a void, and there were many pagoda steels. From the surroundings to the core, the small pagoda steels became bigger, but even the smallest one was like a towering mountain. Even with Chen Hao's powerful soul perception, it was blocked by the mysterious pressure released by the pagoda steels and could not penetrate. What a terrifying pressure! What pure spiritual chi of heaven and earth! Chen Hao's face shone with strong shock and excitement. This was something that Li Mubai could not come into contact with before. It was also a sacred ground that 99% of the disciples in the Hunyuan sect could not come into contact with. Bang! Bang bang! Ah, this pressure is actually so terrifying. At this moment, what made Chen Hao slightly surprised was that among the disciples who had entered with him, Zhang Chong and the other 3 newcomers, who had entered for the first time, were caught off guard and were actually bound by the terrifying pressure and directly fell to the ground. At this time, most of the old people who came in looked at Chen Hao with slight surprise. It wasn't strange for him to fall to the ground during his first time in a grotto heaven. It would be strange if he didn't fall to the ground. There's nothing strange about it. He's the direct disciple of the 5th Grand Elder. He's the successor of the 5th Grand Elder's legacy. Naturally, he would have received guidance from the 5th Grand Elder before coming here. However, this Li Mubai has indeed been reborn. He's not much worse than us now. Farewell, see you in 10 years. A young man with a powerful aura noticed that everyone was looking at Chen Hao in surprise. He said lightly and proudly. After that, he quickly flew into the depths of the secret realm. That's true. Everyone, goodbye. Chi. Immediately, more than 10 people quickly left. These people were all extremely arrogant, like proud peacocks. Even though Chen Hao and the other newcomers were present, they ignored them and talked among themselves. They didn't have the slightest intention of making friends with them. However, there was a young woman who saw Chen Hao looking at them. She nodded slightly at Chen Hao but didn't say anything more and flashed away. Isn't it just a reminder from a genuine immortal master? What's so great about that? Zhang Chong thought disdainfully and quickly approached the pagoda monument. The others didn't dare to delay and gathered their energy to resist the pressure of the pagoda monument's Tao mark. They excitedly left. One of the young women also nodded slightly at him. It had to be said that once this guy regained his original appearance and aura, he was terrifyingly popular with women. This wasn't just because he was too handsome and talented. More importantly, it was because of his legendary luck with women. Unfortunately, Chen Hao didn't have any feelings for women at this moment. After crossing the sea, water couldn't be considered water. Apart from Mount Wu, clouds couldn't be considered clouds. When he cut off his love and sealed it, he also sealed all his love with extreme sincerity. He threw away all his desires and pursued the peak of martial arts, returning to the ancient chaotic universe. Chi. Taking a deep breath, Chen Hao abruptly gathered his spirit, soul, and soul perception to the peak in an instant. 10 years. With the support of the space-time law, he would cultivate here for 1,000 years. 1,000 years. No matter how confident Chen Hao was, he knew that it was far from enough to comprehend the Tao mark of the Immortal Sutra that all the cultivators in the ancient chaotic universe scrambled for. Even if this wasn't the real Immortal Sutra and was just a Tao mark left by the sex experts based on their own comprehension, it was still not that simple. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many top geniuses who entered again and again. Especially that guy who just went out, he actually entered 38 times. The more central the pagoda monument is, the more powerful the Tao mark is, and the more profound the Immortal Sutra's mysteries it contains. However, since these outermost pagoda monuments exist, there must be a reason for their existence. 1,000 people's 1,000 solutions are all different. I'll start from the simple ones. Chen Hao looked at the other people, including Zhang Chong and the other newcomers, who all arrogantly jumped over the outermost pagoda monuments. He seemed to be deep in thought. In the end, he didn't listen to the 5th Supreme Elder's suggestion to choose a pagoda monument with an appropriate pressure. Instead, he started from the simplest one. He should at least understand it first before making a decision. I'll go deeper. I definitely can't lose to Li Mubai. What was different from Chen Hao is that when Zhang Chong reached his limit, he still gritted his teeth and went deeper into the pagoda monuments. This was definitely the time to test one's cultivation. In fact, in everyone's opinion, when they reached their limit, they could sharpen their willpower and stimulate their soul's potential. They could also comprehend more powerful Tao marks, so the deeper they went, the better. The other newcomers also had the same mindset of competing with each other. Especially when they saw that the 20 over-experts who had entered this place many times had already disappeared into the depths, they gritted their teeth and tried their best to get closer. At least the gap couldn't be too big. Damn, so he stopped long ago. As expected, he received the 5th Supreme Elder's reminder, but he shouldn't be so weak. I've already reached the 4th level, he should at least be able to reach the 3rd level, right? When Zhang Chong reached the 4th level with great difficulty, he finally stopped. If he continued to advance, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to split his attention to comprehend the mysteries of the pagoda monuments. At this time, what made him surprised was that Li Mubai actually stopped in front of the outermost pagoda monument and entered a state of comprehension. Chapter 960. The Earth Desolation of the Immortal Sutra. Yang Lu, disciple of the Hunyuan sect, comprehended. Chen Hao sat cross-legged 100 miles away from the pagoda stele. He stared at the small words on the upper right corner of the stele. One of the 3 great immortal sutras, the Earth Desolation Sutra. The 3 great immortal sutras were the Earth Desolation Sutra, the Heavenly Emperor Sutra, and the Chaos Sutra. The dense and messy Tao marks on the stele, as well as the oppressive aura it exuded, did not need to be explained in small words. Chen Hao was certain that these were related to the Earth Desolation Sutra. Yang Lu was the senior from the Hunyuan sect who had inscribed these Tao marks. Unfortunately, perhaps because it was too long ago, Li Mubai did not have any information about Yang Lu in his memories. Phew! After a long sigh, Chen Hao focused his mind and looked at the densely packed Tao marks on the pagoda stele. His mind was also immersed in the oppressive aura of the Tao marks. His eyes flashed across the Tao marks, trying to capture the concept they contained. 2 hours passed, and there was no reaction. 4 hours passed, and there was still no reaction. 3 days passed, and there was still no way to understand the mystery. It's actually so mysterious. Chen Hao was shocked when he saw that his head was spinning and his eyes were sore from the oppressive aura. Although he had expected the 3 great immortal sutras to be difficult to understand, he did not expect that after 3 days, he could not even get a glimpse of it. This was not even the real Immortal Sutra, but it was already so difficult. What would the real Immortal Sutra be like? Phew. Chen Hao sighed. Let's recover first. I've used up a lot of energy. However, it's only been 3 days. If it were that simple, it wouldn't be an Immortal Sutra. Chen Hao slowly closed his sore eyes. No, these Tao marks look messy, but they don't exist independently. Instead, they are formed in one go. No wonder there's no reaction. I have to use my heart to comprehend it. Chen Hao suddenly exclaimed. Even he didn't think that it was because he had been staring at the tower stele for too long. The moment he closed his eyes, the Tao marks of the entire tower stele seemed to be left in his eyes. Moreover, the Tao marks became clearer and brighter. This feeling was like playing a game for a long time, but when you closed your eyes, you could still see the game scene. The only difference was that at this moment, the seemingly chaotic Tao marks that appeared in Chen Hao's eyes actually seemed to have come alive. Their forms and intentions were connected, like the strokes of calligraphy echoing each other, and their charm was connected. Wang. Whoosh. Qi. Qi. And just as Chen Hao was in shock, an illusory world suddenly appeared. It was as though he had entered a brand new world. A boundless aura of desolation gushed forth. At the same time, an imposing figure that resembled a heavenly god appeared in the center of the world, dancing with his sword. The aura of desolation was none other than him. I see. Chen Hao spoke excitedly, and then he held his breath in concentration and entered into a state of comprehension. Tao Mark Secret Realm. Using the Tao marks left behind by oneself, one could bring one's comprehension into the Tao mark space and comprehend the immortal scriptures aura contained within the absolute art. This was the Tao mark secret realm, and also the powerful function of the tower steel. If not for this, cultivators could only comprehend from the Tao marks. Relatively speaking, the effect would be many times weaker. When Qinhao entered the Tao mark secret realm, some experts who had been here several times or dozens of times had already rushed to the pagoda stele that they wanted to comprehend. Furthermore, they had already entered the Tao mark secret realm 2 days ago. However, the newcomers who came for the first time, other than Qinhao, were still suffering. Firstly, they had already reached the limit of the pressure they could endure, and the amount of energy they could spare to comprehend the Tao marks was limited. Secondly, the Tao marks they faced were even stronger, and it was relatively difficult for them to enter the Tao mark secret realm. Furthermore, every once in a while, they had to fully recover their essence, energy, and true essence. The consumption here was extremely high. Even with an endless supply of extremely pure heaven and earth spirit energy, their own replenishment could not reach a balance. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. In front of the first level of the pagoda monument, Qinhao, who was sitting cross-legged, had not changed at all since the beginning. His entire body was glowing with immortal light, and he automatically absorbed and spat out dense and pure heaven and earth spirit energy, easily maintaining the balance of his own consumption. In these 3 years, he did not stop to recover at all. He was completely immersed in the Tao mark secret realm. Every time Zhang Chong and the others had no choice but to stop, they would check on the situation of the others. After seeing Qinhao's state, they were not surprised, because Qinhao was only at the first level of the pagoda monument. If it were them, they would be confident that they could do the same. Chi. At this moment, in the Tao mark secret realm, Qinhao was no longer observing and comprehending. Instead, his heart moved, and he danced with the figure in the Tao mark. Moreover, his aura was becoming more and more similar to the Tao mark figure. His entire body was surrounded by a desolate aura. It's about time. Boom! Qinhao's mind suddenly shot out a berserk energy, and with a loud explosion in his mind returned to his body, and the Tao mark secret realm disappeared. Huff! Qinhao opened his eyes. In these 3 years, although there is still a huge gap between us, that is the gap between our realms and the heavenly Tao laws. I have already comprehended the profound mystery of desolation that he contains. It doesn't seem. It's not that difficult. Could it be that I really chose something too simple? Shaking his head, Qinhao looked at the figures in the depths. When he saw that they were still standing there without moving, Qinhao took a deep breath and thought to himself, should I go deeper, or should I try the other first level? Qi. Qinhao rose into the air, his gaze sweeping across the pagoda monuments. The first level has a total of 112 pagoda monuments. If they are all as simple as this pagoda monument, I might be able to comprehend them all in less than 300 years. According to Master, it seems that it is not that easy to completely comprehend any of the pagoda monuments. After hesitating for a moment, Qinhao finally decided to stay on the first level. It was not that he did not want to have the greatest harvest, but he wanted to have an even greater harvest. 1,000 disintegrations, even the simplest one was the comprehension of many senior experts, and Qinhao could faintly feel that his comprehension speed was not something that others could compare to. This should be related to the profound Tao scriptures and Buddhist scriptures that he had comprehended and honed his super high comprehension ability. Ha. You can't even comprehend the simplest pagoda monument, and you changed to another one. Looks like it was really a great opportunity that allowed you to temporarily improve. Trash is trash. How can talent and comprehension be changed by a great opportunity? A chicken will always be a chicken, wanting to become a phoenix. It's not that easy. Ha. When Zhang Chong recovered once again, he saw that Qinhao had actually changed to the lowest level pagoda monument, and immediately laughed out loud in disdain, shamelessly humiliating him. Chapter 961. This time, Zhang Chong had disturbed the surrounding cultivators. They all looked at Zhang Chong without hiding anything. Fortunately, that guy tactfully shut his mouth. However, the few people who were awakened also looked curiously in Chen Hao's direction. When they saw that it was indeed as Zhang Chong had said, their eyes were filled with a hint of schadenfreude. It was not that Li Mubai was too annoying. In fact, anyone who was suppressed by a genius who suddenly appeared would feel dissatisfied. They had worked hard step by step to achieve their current dazzling achievements. Why was he able to reach the same level as them in such a short time? Whoever saw a guy who was originally thousands of miles away from them and who they disdained to look at suddenly rise to the same level as them would feel unhappy. If Li Mubai had become stronger bit by bit through hard work, they could still accept it. But Li Mubai was not like that. Chen Hao, who was sitting cross-legged, did not have any change in expression. However, the corner of his mouth curled up into a smile. Truly ignorant? Oh, it's not that they are ignorant. It's just that I, your brother, am too strong. Hee. Originally, Chen Hao was not sure if it was because it was too simple. After all, before he came, the fifth Grand Elder did not explain much to him. His understanding of the secret realm was also very limited. But now, through Zhang Chang's words and the gazes of the few people who looked at him, especially the old man among them, Chen Hao was sure that even the simplest pagoda monument was not something that could be comprehended in 3 years. At least, in their knowledge, no one had done it. Sand accumulates into a tower, hundreds of rivers converge into the sea. Chen Hao confidently threw himself into the comprehension. This time, he only used a few hours to open the Dao Mark secret realm and once again immersed himself in the comprehension. Ha, changing again. I'm dying of laughter. Ah, sorry, I really can't hold it in. Damn, it can't be. You don't even have the slightest bit of patience. That's right, your comprehension is too weak. You can't even find the door at all. It's only right. Ha. Zhang Chong, can you fucking shut up? If you want to talk, don't use your true essence. If you continue like this, I don't mind spreading the news. Fuck. Cough, sorry. For more than 10 years, Chen Hao had changed 6 pagoda steels. Moreover, the frequency at which he changed them seemed to be gradually increasing. Every time Zhang Chong discovered this, he would laugh boastfully and mock Chen Hao. Chen Hao never paid any attention to him. This made him believe that Li Mubai was really trash, and he became more and more unscrupulous. However, Zhang Chong didn't dare to say anything else when the crowd was angry. And as time passed, over 100 years later, Zhang Chong and the others woke up less and less. It was clear that they had adapted to the pressure of the pagoda steel, and were gradually able to maintain a balance between their energy consumption and absorption. Chen Hao, on the other hand, continued to change the pagoda steels every 2 or 3 years, or even shorter. A few of them would occasionally wake up. At first, they would pay attention to it, but later, they would just ignore it. Such a person, not to mention how good his comprehension was, his patience was too poor. He would retreat when faced with difficulties. How could he achieve great success? It was meaningless to pay attention to him. He was already an existence that couldn't be compared to them. 620 years passed in a hurry. On this day, in the arcane realm grotto heaven that had been silent for more than 400 years, there was suddenly a scream of horror. The voice seemed to be filled with shock and anger, and it directly awakened nearly 10 cultivators around it. Zhang Chong, that bastard. Just by the voice, they could tell that it was Zhang Chong. One by one, they glared at Zhang Chong's direction. Immediately, their eyes widened. What was going on? Li Mubai, what are you doing here? Zhang Chong glared at Chen Hao as if he had seen a ghost. Who said that this place is yours? I want to comprehend here. What does it have to do with you? Unknowingly, Chen Hao, who was sitting cross-legged near Zhang Chong, turned his head to look at Zhang Chong and asked rhetorically. Although his expression was calm, there was a trace of mockery in his eyes that were as sharp as swords. Chen Hao also did not expect that this fellow would actually be frightened to this extent by his silent arrival. Of course, when Zhang Chong found him, he had already been comprehending here for about half a year. In 620 years, he had already comprehended the first floor's 100 stone and 2 pagoda steels, the second floor's 62 pagoda steels, and the third floor's 39 pagoda steels. When he reached the fourth floor, the first one Chen Hao chose was Zhang Chong. No, you can actually withstand the pressure of the Tao marks here? And so easily. Don't be surprised. Don't affect my comprehension. Otherwise, I'll sue you. Chen Hao said mockingly. After saying that, he closed his eyes. It was obvious that he treated Zhang Chong as a fly. Zhang Chong opened his mouth and was choked by Chen Hao until he could not speak. He was even more puzzled in his heart. What the hell was going on? Wasn't he always wandering around the first floor? Why did he come to his side after not paying attention for a few hundred years? Similarly puzzled and shocked, there were also a few people who were awakened by Zhang Chong's scream. At this time, they completely did not understand what Li Mubai was selling, but even if they were beaten to death, they would not believe that Chen Hao had comprehended the first few levels of the pagoda steels. There's only one explanation. Li Mubai has already given up on comprehending and is specially enduring the pressure of the Tao marks to temper his soul and body. It seems that the golden body reconstructed by the fifth Grand Elder and him should be extremely powerful. And it must be so. Otherwise, his appearance wouldn't have changed so much. This was definitely because the origin of the bloodline he used was extremely domineering, and that was why it was so dominant. Otherwise, his appearance wouldn't have changed so much. Furthermore, the proportion of his absorption was extremely high. His soul's endurance is also very strong. Not long after, everyone made their own judgment in their hearts. Although they all agreed that Li Mubai was not fated with the Immortal Sutra, they had to re-evaluate Li Mubai's strength. Not to mention anything else, just the ability to withstand the pressure of the Tao marks was extremely powerful. Otherwise, he would not have appeared so relaxed. Fourth level, 16 pieces. Fifth level, 8 pieces. Sixth level, 5 pieces. Seventh level, 3 pieces. Eighth level, 2 pieces. Ninth level, which is also the last level, 1 piece, Chen Hao, who was awakened by Zhang Chong, thought to himself when he closed his eyes. Inferring from this half a year's time, the fourth level, if I were to comprehend 1 piece, it would take at least 6 years. 16 pieces would be close to 100 years. The deeper I go, the harder it will be. It seems that it will be difficult to comprehend all of them. If Zhang Chong and the others knew what Chen Hao was thinking at this moment, their eyeballs would fall to the ground from shock. In 1,000 years, they could not even completely comprehend 1 piece. But even so, they could clearly feel that their soul, body, will, Tao mark pressure and their own comprehension had obtained an astonishing improvement. Unfortunately, Chen Hao had comprehended so many pagoda monuments. Until now, he felt that his improvement was not as great as he had imagined. Especially after sensing the aura of Zhang Chong and the others, Chen Hao realized that the speed of his improvement was not as fast as any of them. Chapter 962. The problem was naturally the profound meaning of the Immortal Sutra contained in the Tao marks and the pressure of the Tao marks in the area where Chen Hao was previously. Up until now, Chen Hao had already comprehended all the profound meaning of the Immortal Sutra contained in the 223 pagoda steels on the first 3 levels. Even if these pagoda steels were not strong, they should have greatly improved him. However, to Chen Hao, they were not of much use. Chen Hao felt like he was peering at a leopard through a tube. Up until now, he still had no concept of the true profound meaning of the 3 great Immortal Sutras. And he himself had cultivated the 3,000 Great Tao, the Tao scriptures of the general outline of the Great Tao, the Buddhist scriptures, and other supreme existences. As a result, he did not feel that the profound meaning of the Immortal Sutra had brought him any great benefits. This was the same logic as swallowing elixirs. After swallowing a high-level elixir, swallowing another elixir of the same level would greatly reduce the effect. Moreover, these pagoda steals were more like diluted water of elixirs of the same level. Unless he saw the true Immortal Sutra, to Qin Hao, the benefits would not be too great. Similarly, if the benefits were great, he would not be able to comprehend it so easily. In addition, the pressure of the Tao marks on the first 3 levels did not pressure him at all. Therefore, the tempering of his soul, will, and body naturally did not improve much. At the 4th level, the pressure of the Tao marks made Qin Hao feel some pressure, but it was not enough. It was still not enough to train him. But since he had already started, Qin Hao would persevere to the end and continue to comprehend. There were still 380 years. With his speed of progress, he would definitely temper himself. Where's Xiaonan? Ancient chaos boundless world, 10 square territory. Qin Shui looked at Qin Yan, Lan Feng, and Coiling Dragon who were covered in blood and asked in horror. Qin Shui, Helian Wuzi, Du Jing, Hu Mainyang, Bei Ningbing, Chen Ling, Li Yang, and the others all felt that they had lost their composure and approached them as fast as they could. But at this moment, they only saw Qin Yan kneeling on the ground, ignoring his injuries, Lan Feng lying on the ground, unable to move, his body almost completely cracked, and extremely weak. There was also a ferocious beast that looked like it had its teeth pulled out, and a miserable coiling dragon. Around them, the collapsed mountain peaks, the terrifying aura that pervaded the air, the blood on the ground, and the broken limbs, all of this proved that an extremely tragic battle had taken place. What's wrong with Xiaonan? And where are our people? Tell us, tell us. Du Jing roared, who is it? Who did it? Chi 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 chi. At this moment, Hu Mainyang, who also looked terrible, suddenly sent out 3 streams of majestic energy into Lan Feng, Coiling Dragon, and Qin Yan. Wah! Second brother. Woo-woo. Qin Yan, whose face was covered in tears but couldn't make a sound, suddenly let out a shrill and painful cry after receiving Hu Mainyang's energy. Second brother was a title that Qin Nan had never enjoyed since he was a child. Qin Yan had always called him Xiao Nan since they were twins. But now, it had become second brother. Puff. I'm sorry. Lan Feng said painfully as he spat out the filthy blood mixed with pieces of his internal organs. Dash. Coiling Dragon let out a heart-wrenching roar and slammed his fists on the hard rocky ground. There were no energy fluctuations, only the most direct physical collisions. Blood splattered everywhere. No. Qin Yan, who was sobbing uncontrollably, suddenly screamed and grabbed at the void as if she was trying to catch something. Her mind was filled with the image of Qin Nan dashing toward her without any regard for his own safety and the words that he transmitted to her at the same time. Little sister, when Big Brother comes back, remember to tell him that I want to be his biological brother in my next life. That way, maybe I can catch up to Big Brother and ask him to avenge me. Don't. Goodbye, little sister. I'm sorry that I didn't have the ability to protect you. Big Brother, goodbye. At that moment, Qin Nan ignited his soul and self-detonated his vital spirit. Like a moth darting into a flame, he charged toward the fatal blow that he couldn't block. He took a deep look at his little sister and then looked into the endless void. Qin Yan knew that he was saying goodbye to Big Brother using the prayer method that Yilan had taught him. Those were the last words that he left in this world, dash. Fuck. Li Mubai, what the fuck are you yelling for? Xiao Nan. Boom. I want to get out. I want to get out. Qin Hao seemed to have not heard the angry roar of the frightened Zhang Chong. He seemed to have gone mad, and his expression was extremely sorrowful as he called out Xiao Nan's name. Then, like a madman, he exploded with a terrifying aura. The pressure that was released in an instant caused the roaring Zhang Chong to be directly silenced. With a plop, he was pressed to the ground. Rumble. Rumble. At this moment, in the macro world in Qin Hao's mind, the heavens and earth changed color. Billions of creatures from the Milky Way star zone all looked up at the void in horror. Then, one by one, they knelt on the ground and began to pray silently. The spirit spring sea suddenly rolled and roared, rolling up thousands of waves. The Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree shook violently even though there was no wind. As if it had the vitality of the 9 heavens and 10 earths, it suddenly bloomed violently, and its branches and leaves grew at a terrifying speed. Shao Nan. Little brother. No. Ah. Chen Hao's second body, which had been sleeping peacefully as if it would never wake up, suddenly let out a heart-wrenching roar almost at the same time as Chen Hao's original body. Chen Hao. You spoke, ah. Nurse Lu Hui, who was accompanying Chen Hao's second body, said in astonishment. But immediately, her expression became extremely gloomy, and her tears almost uncontrollably became the same as those of Chen Hao's second body. She looked at Chen Hao, who seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep again, and suddenly grabbed his hand. Hundreds of years had passed. Nurse Lu Hui had practiced all kinds of cultivation methods that Chen Hao's original body had left to Chen Hua to the extreme. Without anyone's guidance and without taking any spiritual objects of heaven and earth, her progress was so amazing that even Chen Hao's original body would be dumbfounded if he saw it. Unfortunately, Chen Hao had been busy with his own affairs during this period of time. After entering the secret realm, he had been cultivating all the time. He didn't even look at the people of the Sky River sector. Of course, that was also the reason why he gave all these to his second body. In the macro world in his mind, the law of time was determined by the world his real body was in. Nurse Lu Hui, who had cultivated for hundreds of years, was now a goddess revered by billions of lives in the Sky River sector. She was the woman of the true God. She had already replaced Chen Hua to preach and perform miracles. And her supernatural ability had been awakened to an even more incredible level as her realm increased. She could hear Chen Hao speak in his deep sleep, and she could sense Chen Hao's thoughts. The two of them had been communicating for hundreds of years. At this moment, she only felt that Chen Hao was about to collapse. Pain, heartache, incomparable heartache, made her feel the same heartache as Chen Hao's heart. Chapter 963. The Other You. Is it the influence of the other you? The young nurse's supernatural ability, mind reading, could tell everyone in the Sky River sector, including Chen Hua, what she wanted to know. Even if the other person didn't tell her, as long as the real information flashed through her mind, she would be able to grasp it. The matter between Chen Hao and Chen Hua was no longer a secret in her heart. You are him, and he is you. Nurse Lu Hui murmured. Although she didn't know what was going on, she took it for granted that such a bizarre thing happened. She also knew that it was an ultimate supernatural ability. Unfortunately, she couldn't touch it at her current level. Over the years, she had long since discovered that she was special. As she cultivated the cultivation methods that Chen Hao had obtained from the other Chen Hao, many wonderful methods would automatically surge into her mind, some of which were even better and more powerful than those left behind by Chen Hao. Up until now, although she had mastered all the cultivation methods that Chen Hao had left behind, she had never lacked anything for cultivation. Stepping into the ranks of cultivators was like opening a door that belonged to her in the first place. How can I help you? Don't be sad. Lu Hui held the hand of Chen Hao's second life tightly and murmured. Li Mubai, what's the ruckus about? Chen Hao activated the communication function of the token. Just as he was about to howl and leave, a dignified voice suddenly transmitted from the token. The 3 words, Li Mubai, were like a calming talisman, causing the frenzied Chen Hao to freeze. Go out? What can I do even if I go out? What can I do? I'm just the Daluo Golden Wonderland. How far can I go? Even if there are traces of the Milky Way tunnel that allow me to enter, so what? Little brother. Earlier, when he was comprehending, an indescribable feeling of terror suddenly arose from the depths of his heart, and a strong feeling of uneasiness almost caused him to go mad. Subsequently, an obsession that seemed to have traversed the boundless river of stars and connected the heavens and the earth drifted into his mind. He saw and heard, he saw the despair and unwillingness in his younger brother's eyes as he burned his soul and self-destructed his origin spirit. He heard his younger brother say, "Goodbye, big brother." This was the obsession that his younger brother passed to him when he was on the brink of death and burned his soul and primordial spirit, breaking through the 9 heavens and 10 earths that even true immortals could not truly achieve. His heart was bleeding. But there was nothing he could do. 1,000 years. He had only left the ancient chaos world for less than 1,000 years. What had happened? I want to level up. I want to level up. Ah! Boom! Chen Hao cut off the connection with the badge and let out a furious roar. His black hair danced wildly in the wind, and his robe flapped wildly. A terrifying aura spread out from him in the center of the arcane realm. At this moment, not only Zhang Chong and the others who were closest to him, but even the top geniuses in the last few floors of the secret realm were shocked awake. A terrifying fluctuation of heaven and earth's spiritual qi had actually appeared in the heavenly abode. Everyone was shocked. It should be noted that the heaven and earth spiritual qi here was extremely pure and dense, and it was continuously supplied. No matter how much they absorbed when they were recovering, they could at most cause some fluctuations within 1,000 feet of themselves. But at this moment, Chen Hao, who was crazily activating himself, caused ripples of heaven and earth spiritual qi in the entire secret realm. What did that mean? The 29 pairs of eyes all sucked in a breath of cold air. Although the 20 people in the depths could not see or sense Chen Hao, they could tell that the roar that resounded through the heavens and earth was Li Mubai's. Buzz! At this moment, the master in the depths, who had been here the most times and was the strongest among the 30 people, who was almost certain to be qualified to enter the sacred ground of the Immortal Sutra, suddenly heard the vibration of the badge. Situ Qian, what happened in the heavenly abode? Elder, Li Mubai just roared crazily for some reason. I was in the depths, and he was in the periphery. I didn't see the specific situation. Go and see the situation. Keep the line connected. Just now Li Mubai was clamoring to go out, but for some reason, I can't get through to him now. Yes. Qi. Situ Qian, who was comprehending in front of the monument on the 9th level of the pagoda, replied respectfully. He directly turned into a stream of light and flashed away. Even if the elder did not instruct him, he would have gone to see what was going on. Even the heaven and earth spiritual qi around him was fluctuating. It was really too shocking. Crazy, crazy. Li Mubai, what is he doing? Qi qi qi, streams of light flashed past, and the 20 people in the depths all appeared near the 4th level. Suddenly, like Zhang Chong and the others, they opened their eyes wide in horror and looked at the unbelievable scene in front of them. Li Mubai was like a demon god, his black hair wildly dancing and his clothes fluttering. He was swallowing the thick and pure heaven and earth spiritual qi at an astonishing speed. His entire body had swelled by more than 10 times, like an inflated balloon, giving people the feeling that he would explode and die at any time. The heaven and earth spiritual qi here was indeed pure to the point that it did not need to be refined to absorb it, but it did not mean that it did not need to be refined. Any cultivator's own true essence was strange, and no matter how pure it would still need to be refined when absorbing it, making it completely consistent with one's own true essence. But Li Mubai was like a madman, only crazily swallowing. Is he still a human? A shocking feeling attacked everyone's nerves. Even Zhang Chong had forgotten his grudge with Li Mubai, and his heart was in his throat. He was shocked by the terrifying endurance of Chen Hao's body, as well as the majestic blood qi bursting out. He was also nervous, as Li Mubai might explode at any time. Possessed by the devil? Situ Qian, wake him up immediately with the primeval Taoist sound. Through Situ Qian's token, the elder in the outside world immediately ordered after seeing the situation. Yes. Situ Qian withdrew his extremely shocked gaze, and the aura around him suddenly soared violently. In an instant, endless Taoist principles surrounded him, and the immortal light shone brightly. At the same time, he suddenly opened his mouth, as if swallowing mountains and rivers, and directly sucked the heaven and earth spiritual chi hundreds of feet in front of him. Moo! Moo, moo, moo. The next moment, a sound like a cow or a dragon suddenly burst out from Situ Qian's mouth, like a bolt of lightning flashing across the entire secret realm. Zhang Chong and other people with weaker cultivations directly blanked out, and their eyes instantly glazed over. This was just the aftermath. Situ Qian was completely targeting Qin Hao. He believed that under his strongest Taoist sound, Li Mubai, who had just been possessed by the devil, would definitely be shocked out of the devil realm. But, when his primeval Taoist sound, which carried endless Taoist principles, was about to spread to Qin Hao's body, the seemingly crazy Qin Hao suddenly opened his mouth. Moo! A vast and magnificent sound suddenly burst out from Qin Hao's mouth, like the evening drum and morning bell. Chapter 964. Boom! The moment the syllables exploded, everyone present, including Situ Qian, felt their souls tremble. The vast syllables directly penetrated their souls and exploded in the depths of their souls, like the roar of a heavenly drum, shaking their hearts. Boom! Rumble, the two kinds of sound waves, which contained endless Tao laws and immortal light, collided with a loud bang. The terrifying explosion was comparable to the collision of secret techniques and magical powers, causing violent fluctuations in the secret grotto heaven. When the Mu syllables disappeared, the Mu syllables still pervaded the entire world and did not dissipate for a long time. Puff! As the Mu syllables shattered, Situ Qian, who was in a daze, suddenly spat out a mouthful of essence blood. His mind was injured, and at the same time, he woke up from his daze. He stared in shock at Qin Hao, whose black hair danced wildly in the void like a monstrous demon god, and his heart was in turmoil. How is this possible? How is this possible? When the Mu syllables completely dissipated, the others woke up from their daze and looked at Situ Qian, who was bleeding from the corners of his mouth and whose face was pale. They were shocked beyond words. Situ Qian, one of the top 3 geniuses of the Hunyuan sect's Daluo Golden Wonderland, had entered the secret grotto heaven 33 times. Since the 3rd time, he had passed the final competition and entered the sacred place of the Immortal Sutra. Moreover, his ranking was getting higher and higher each time. Even the old man, who had left 38 times before, could not compare with Situ Qian. He was faintly showing signs of becoming the first person in the Hunyuan sect's Daluo Jingxian. But now, his mind was injured by Li Mubai's Dao sound. Zhang Chong, who had a fiery temper, felt his legs go weak at this moment, and cold sweat broke out on his back. Was Li Mubai, who had been harboring hatred and provoking him, still human? Elder, Situ Qian cried out with difficulty. At the same time, the aura around him began to surge wildly, and his eyes became extremely angry as he looked at Qin Hao. Especially when he sensed the gazes of the people around him, he felt that his dignity had been seriously challenged. He couldn't tolerate it. She had awakened him out of kindness, only to be injured by his soundwave divine ability. How could she not be angry? Don't be rash. Li Mubai wasn't bedeviled, he was in the demonic realm. The Dao sound that blocked you just now was completely controlled by my subconscious. I didn't mean to hurt you, otherwise. Elder. Otherwise, it won't be your mind that gets hurt, but your soul. Too strong. His mind was now completely immersed in the crazy state of devouring the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. What had stimulated him? How can he be so strong? The shocked voices of the 5 elders in the token made the furious Situ Qian sober up a little. At this moment, if he rushed forward to duel with Li Mubai, not to mention that the 5 elders wouldn't allow it, even if they did allow it, he would be purely asking for trouble. This was the demonic realm, an existence even rarer than Epiphany. Moreover, whether it was Epiphany or the demonic realm, as one's cultivation level increased, the chances of it appearing became less and less. After reaching the Daluo Golden Wonderland, Epiphany was extremely rare, and the demonic realm was even more difficult to come by. Once this state appeared, one's potential would explode several times, and they would be able to kill gods and devils in their way. This also made Situ Qian understand that his Dao sound had been broken through by his opponent, and the root of his mind was injured. It wasn't that he was weak, but that Li Mubai's demonic realm was too terrifying. Fortunately, at that time, he was holding the goodwill of awakening Li Mubai, and not the intention to kill. Otherwise, Li Mubai, who was in a state of madness, would definitely subconsciously return the favor. Then, as the elders said, what was hurt would not be his mind, but his soul. Chi 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 chi, more than 20 rays of light flew to Situ Qian's side one after another. Senior brother, what's going on? The demonic realm. Li Mubai has entered the demonic realm. Ah. All of you listen, for the time being, no one is to get close to Li Mubai, and don't disturb him. Once the demonic realm is over, he will return to normal. If anything unusual happens, immediately report to us with the token, understand? At this time, the elder in Situ Qian's token said loudly. Yes, all of you also pay attention, when his demonic realm is over, report to us. Yes, elder. Old 5, you go and report to the 5th Grand Elder. This time, the 5th Grand Elder has really picked up a treasure. This Li Mubai is really a late bloomer, and a great talent that amazes everyone. The peak of the late stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland can actually appear in the demonic realm. This is unbelievable. Yes, we should report to the 5th Grand Elder, but I'm very curious, what kind of stimulation did he receive before? The demonic realm, even in the face of life and death, is extremely rare, especially in the Daluo Golden Wonderland. It's almost extinct. What kind of stimulation did it take for it to appear? He shouted that he wanted to come out. That should be the reason. Only he knows this. When he comes out, we'll ask him. Phew. It seems that our Hunyuan sect has another rising star, and it may be the most dazzling one. It's too early to say. He injured Situ Qian in the demonic realm, and when the demonic realm is over, there will be an astonishing increase, but there is still a gap between him and Situ Qian. Ha! I didn't say that I can compare with your good grand disciple now. Look at how excited you are. It's hard to say in the future. I feel that Li Mubai, this kid, must have had an amazing encounter in the past few hundred years, discovered the immortal opportunity, and chased after it. Later, the sect leader casually said that he didn't find the immortal opportunity, but directly gave Li Mubai a place to enter the secret realm. I'm thinking. You're saying, it's very possible. Yes, that should be the case, otherwise, why would he directly give him such a big reward? Good kid. I finally understand what's going on. No wonder after shocking everyone with a single brilliant feat, he advanced so quickly. After his physical body was destroyed, he reconstructed his golden body, as if he was a different person, the immortal opportunity. It's all because of the immortal opportunity. Shoo. Let's not talk about this anymore, just pretend that we didn't hear anything. Old 5, there's no need to report to the 5th Grand Elder. Otherwise, we'll be suspected. Just pretend that we didn't see anything. Yes, Qin Hao did not expect this, and neither did the 5th Great Elder. The 5 ancients were the closest to becoming a true immortal, but they were still half a foot away from it. Yet, when Qin Hao entered a state of madness, they thought of the immortal fate. It had to be said that this reasoning was completely logical. Why would the 5th Great Elder choose a mediocre disciple? Could it be that the sect leader, just because the 5th Grand Elder chose Li Mubai, rewarded him with the right to enter the secret realm that many geniuses could not even enter? Why was Li Mubai able to shock the world with a single brilliant feat? After shocking everyone with a single brilliant feat, he even reconstructed his golden body and underwent a rare complete rebirth. How could this be explained? Now, there was the appearance of the almost extinct demonic realm in the Daluo Golden Wonderland. How could this be explained? It could only be the immortal opportunity. Only Li Mubai's immortal opportunity, which was comparable to the 3 great celestial sutras, could be so incredible. Chapter 965. The 5 elders could be said to have hit the nail on the head. Although the process of speculation was crooked and the result was wrong, but in the end, they still connected the immortal fate with Li Mubai. After 2 hours had passed in the outside world, the 5 elders still did not receive any reports from Situ Qian and the others. They could not help but take the initiative to contact Situ Qian. What shocked them once again was that Li Mubai was still immersed in a state of madness, constantly repeating the process of devouring, refining, devouring, and refining, 10 years in the outside world, 1,000 years in the grotto heaven of the secret realm, 2 hours, it was 100 hours inside. How could the demonic realm last for 100 hours? The 5 elders once again used the token to carefully sense Li Mubai's state and confirmed that their judgment was not wrong. This made them have no choice but to re-evaluate the strength of the immortal fate, but what was even more shocking was still to come. Li Mubai's state of madness seemed to have no end. After devouring the spiritual energy of heaven and earth near the 4th level for an entire month, he suddenly opened his eyes. With a chi sound, he rushed towards the 5th level of the pagoda monument as fast as lightning. His eyes were black and white, but it gave people a feeling of emptiness. It was as if his entire mind and soul were in an unconscious state where there was no heaven, no earth, no self. On the 5th level, the pressure of the pagoda monument's Tao mark was much stronger than on the 4th level. Zhang Chong and the others did not dare to cross over. But Qin Hao was completely fearless in this strange state of madness. Not only that, when he arrived in front of a pagoda monument, he once again began to devour and refine crazily. This time, after a full 3 months, Situ Qian, Zhang Chong, and the others also gave up on watching. They all had different feelings and comprehended their own. There was no other way. Who knew when Li Mubai's strange state of madness would end? The fact that the Berserk Devil realm could last for such a long time was definitely something that no one had ever heard of. It was unprecedented, and it was unlikely that there would be anyone like it in the future. Zhang Chong, who had been provoking Li Mubai before, finally calmed down this time. The deep sense of powerlessness and frustration forced him to calm down. Li Mubai's sudden increase in strength made him unhappy, but when he became strong to the point where he had to look up to him, that unhappiness disappeared. Li Mubai had already surpassed him by too much. He no longer had the qualifications to compete with him, so what was the use of being unhappy? 3 years, 5 years. Sigh. Comparisons are odious. 10 years, in the state of the Berserk Devil realm, 10 years, every time he needed to fully recover, Situ Qian, Zhang Chong, and the others would pay attention to Li Mubai. They were no longer shocked, only envious and bitter. Qi. On the 5th floor, Qin Hao had been crazily absorbing and refining the spiritual qi of heaven and earth for 10 whole years. Finally, he moved again. Ah, the girl who had once nodded slightly at Qin Hao was suddenly awakened by the spiritual qi of heaven and earth around her. When she saw that Qin Hao was actually not too far away from her, she let out a cry of surprise, then quickly covered her mouth. His black hair danced wildly, his blue robe, his handsome and cold face was still black and white, but his eyes were empty. Looking at him at such a close distance, it made the girl's heart tremble for no reason. That pair of empty black eyes that seemed to have no consciousness, under her close gaze, actually seemed to contain endless sorrow, as if they were dripping blood, as if they were crying, as if they were pouring out, as if they were blaming themselves. She couldn't describe what exactly she was feeling, but her gaze was completely sunk into the other party's empty eyes. An indescribable heartache, as if it was tugging at her heart, made her want to go forward and comfort him, without any utilitarian thoughts, but in the end, she forced herself to hold it in. She knew that Li Mubai was currently in the Berserk Devil realm that cultivators could only hope to encounter but not seek. She didn't dare to disturb him, nor was she able to approach him. What kind of person was he exactly? What kind of pain and agony did he go through to fall into such a deep Berserk Devil realm? She felt that this junior brother who she had once disdained, definitely had an unforgettable experience and story. 30 years passed by in a flash. When the girl started to recover and woke up, Qin Hao had already disappeared from her side and entered the 7th floor. Looking at the figure that was crazily swallowing and refining the spiritual chi of heaven and earth from afar, she actually had a strong urge to rush over. She also didn't know what was going on, but when Chen Hao was swallowing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, she was clearly distracted to sense him, but the speed of her comprehension of the pagoda monument's Tao mark was actually faster than ever before, and she would soon be immersed in it. Until now, she had already comprehended the pagoda monument several times, but she still couldn't completely comprehend it. At this moment, she was actually at the final juncture, just a little bit more and she would completely comprehend it. Chi. After hesitating for a moment, the girl directly soared into the sky and flew towards the pagoda monument on the 7th floor where Chen Hao was. Previously, everyone had also noticed that Chen Hao was on the same pagoda monument as her, but they didn't expect that she would actually give up on comprehending the pagoda monument on the 6th floor and rush to the 7th floor, and take the initiative to carefully approach Chen Hao again. What do you mean by it's not time to make a Tao companion? When you see someone with amazing talent and potential, won't you still take the initiative to approach him? Women are all sluts, and you, Nguyen Tan Lan, are no exception. A young disciple in front of another pagoda monument on the 7th floor had an ugly expression when he saw the girl taking the initiative to approach Chen Hao to comprehend the pagoda monument, and his heart was filled with disdain. Apex geniuses with amazing talent like them rarely had a Tao companion, and the more talented they were, the later they would make a Tao companion. They pursued the peak of the martial Tao, and before their potential was exhausted, they would definitely not easily make a Tao companion and use dual cultivation to improve themselves. This was the same in the ancient chaos vast thousand worlds and the chaotic vast thousand worlds, especially for women. Men were relatively better off, as they did not have to worry about the primordial yin body, and it was fine to vent the most primitive throbbing appropriately. As long as it was not used for dual cultivation, there would be no impact. However, women were born weak, and it was almost impossible for them to find a powerful Tao companion after losing the primordial yin body, which was the most precious thing. What a strong pressure! The girl named Nguyen Tan Lan, after approaching Chen Hao, was slightly shocked by the terrifying pressure released by the pagoda monument. She had no choice but to push her essence, chi, and spirit to the limit to resist the pressure. However, Chen Hao, who was in a state of madness, did not seem to care about this terrifying pressure at all, and continued to madly devour the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth. My comprehension speed will be faster by his side. If I get closer, will it be better? Nguyen Tan Lan thought to herself. She had already sat cross-legged, but after a slight hesitation, she stood up again and slowly approached Chen Hao. Chapter 966. In front of the towering pagoda monument, Nguyen Tan Lan was originally about 100 miles away from Chen Hao. As she slowly approached, she did not feel anything strange at first. But when she crossed the distance of 50 miles, she could feel the turbulence of the surrounding heaven and earth spirit energy. Although she could not see anything, the moment she entered the pagoda monument, the feeling suddenly became 10 times or even 100 times stronger. But this was not what shocked Nguyen Tan Lan the most. What shocked Nguyen Tan Lan the most was that the pressure of the pagoda monument's Tao mark on her body had suddenly disappeared. It had disappeared completely, and she could not even sense the aura of the Tao mark. What was going on? Nguyen Tan Lan widened her eyes in shock. She stared at the extraordinarily handsome but empty figure and was stunned on the spot, not moving at all. The pressure of the Tao mark, could it be that he had swallowed it all? Nguyen Tan Lan could not believe it, but other than this reason, there was no other explanation. At this moment, although she was in front of the pagoda monument and the heaven and earth spirit energy was fluctuating intensely, other than feeling comfortable all over, she did not feel any pressure to endure, nor did she comprehend the mysteries of the Tao mark. She had no choice but to retreat a little more and enter the pressure of the Tao mark. She tried her best to appear calm so that others would not notice anything strange. This was all selfish, and Nguyen Tan Lan was no exception. Especially when others were in a competitive relationship with her. She had no reason to tell others that by being beside Li Mubai, the speed of comprehending the mysteries of the Tao mark would increase by several times, or even dozens of times. This was an opportunity given to her by Li Mubai in his demonic state. Nguyen Tan Lan was near the critical point of 50 miles away from Qinhao. Every time her essence, energy, and primeval essence were exhausted, her body would slightly move a few meters closer to Qinhao, and the terrifying pressure would disappear, allowing her to quickly recover. Once she recovered to her peak state, she would immediately enter the pressure of the Tao mark again. This cycle repeated itself, and in addition to the increase in comprehension speed near Qinhao, she could clearly feel that her comprehension of the pagoda monument's Tao mark was increasing at a rapid pace. It had far surpassed the comprehensive improvement she had experienced when she entered the Grotto Heaven mystic realms previously. Not only that, as she comprehended the mysteries of the Tao mark, her ability to withstand the pressure of the Tao mark became stronger. Her soul, willpower, and primeval essence were all increasing at an astonishing speed. The more it was like this, the more shocked she was about Li Mubai. If she had improved so much, then how much would Li Mubai, who had caused all of this, improve? It was immeasurable. Occasionally, she would look at Qinhao's emptiness, but it contained sorrow that made her heart ache. While she was filled with pity, she was also filled with gratitude. Even though she knew that Li Mubai's help to her was completely unintentional. 50 years passed by quickly. Even though Nguyen Tan Lan tried her best to comprehend and comprehended a lot, she was still unable to catch up to Qinhao's speed. 50 years. Qinhao made a chi sound and turned into a stream of light again, rushing deeper into the pagoda monument. The 8th floor. Although it was regretful, Nguyen Tan Lan did not hesitate and immediately followed. The Tao mark pressure of the 8th floor was undoubtedly more terrifying. It was several times stronger than the 7th floor. If it was not for the astonishing 80 years of improvement on the 7th floor, Nguyen Tan Lan would not be able to withstand the Tao mark pressure of the 8th floor. But now, she was barely able to withstand it. This was something she had never thought of before. She was very clear that if she wanted to do this, she would have to come here dozens of times. But who could insist on staying in the Daluo Golden Wonderland when their progress was extremely slow? So, strictly speaking, she was afraid that she would not be able to step into the 8th floor. But now, she had actually stepped into the 8th floor. When the others noticed this scene, they were all overwhelmed with shock. No one would have thought that Nguyen Tan Lan would be able to follow them to the end. Most importantly, she could still keep up with Qinhao, who was in a state of madness. How is this possible? Nguyen Tan Lan has been hiding her strength all this time. She can actually withstand the pressure of the 8th floor. The young genius who had previously looked down on Nguyen Tan Lan on the 7th floor was extremely shocked when he woke up and saw that Nguyen Tan Lan and Li Mubai had actually reached the 8th floor. Of course, he did not know that Nguyen Tan Lan had benefited from Li Mubai, who was in a state of madness. I see. No wonder she looked down on me. This woman is really scheming. But, when did she reach such a level? The 8th floor. Even I don't dare to enter. While this young man was in shock, Sita Qian, who was almost the #1 existence in the Hunyuan sect's Daluo Golden Wonderland, was also shocked when he saw this scene. Of course, he was no longer shocked by Li Mubai, who was in a state of madness. The person he was shocked by was naturally Nguyen Tan Lan. Now, among their group of experts who had entered, he was the only one who had entered the 9th floor. There was one person on the 7th floor and 13 on the 8th floor, but he was very clear that these 13 people only had the strength of the 7th floor. When they reached the 8th floor, the 13 of them had joined forces to resist the pressure of the Tao marks and helped each other to comprehend. But at this time, Nguyen Tan Lan had actually followed Qinhao to another pagoda monument on the 8th floor. Although her expression was extremely painful, she had obviously withstood the pressure. This was really inconceivable. Nguyen Tan Lan also had the intention of befriending me. Unfortunately, she was unable to arouse my interest back then. I didn't expect her to progress so quickly. Moreover, She is interested in Li Mubai. Situ Qian frowned and thought to himself. Li Mubai, muttering Li Mubai's name, Situ Qian's fighting spirit rose, but he immediately retracted it powerlessly. The state of madness had already lasted for 90 years. What kind of concept was that? And from the looks of it, there were no signs of it ending. He had been madly devouring the world spirit qi for 90 years, if it was only devouring the world spirit qi to temper his body, it was fine. But what about the increasing pressure of the Tao marks? What's more, when one was in the berserk devil realm, one's comprehension of the laws of the heavenly Tao was invisible and astonishing. Even if he didn't want to admit it, he had no choice but to admit that when Li Mubai's berserk devil realm disappeared, his own strength had probably reached the same level as him. It's been 7 years, Li Mubai is still immersed in the state of madness, immortal fate. Just how powerful is his immortal fate to have such a terrifying innate ability? Back then, when Li Mubai recited the scripture with a wisp of primordial spirit, although it was just a recitation, it made people feel that it was profound and unfathomable. Many supreme elders and sect masters even thought that it was comparable to the existence of the 3 great immortal scriptures. Thinking about it, even if it is not as good as the 3 great immortal scriptures, but to be able to let Li Mubai obtain such a terrifying improvement, it would not be much worse than the immortal scriptures. This is fate. Chapter 967. No matter how you look at it, it's our Hunyuan sect's destiny. Of the 30 contestants before us, Leaf Dao Denier was eliminated. Not a single one of them was able to enter the immortal scripture Holy Land. That's a huge loss of face for the Hunyuan sect. Yeah, it's not just the Hunyuan sect. There are several other top sects that are in a similar situation. The immortal scripture Holy Land's ruler is arranging opponents for the final competition. This time, it seems he's specifically targeting the seeded contestants. Although he didn't say it explicitly, his intention is clear. He's trying to encourage newcomers to enter. That's a bit of an idea. When the holy emissary picked them up, he didn't pick any of our seeded contestants. He obviously didn't approve of Leaf Dao Denier, who entered 38 times. Do you think we don't know that? But for the sake of the sect's face, the seeded contestants have to go. It's the same for the other sections. Who would have thought that the immortal scripture Holy Land's ruler would block their entry so clearly? In every round, the seeded contestants would meet each other. In the end, aside from a few top experts, almost all of them would be wiped out. Furthermore, our newcomers were too weak. In the end, not a single one of them was selected. The sect lord is furious. Yeah, let's see what happens this time. I think, if nothing unexpected happens to Li Mubai, there will be no problem. I think he'll be able to maintain his demented state until the end of the arcane pocket paradise. Your grand disciple Situ Qian also has a chance. Although he's participated many times, his progress is clear. Even if he's an old man, I don't think he can escape the notice of the immortal scripture Holy Land. Disciples like him will be taken into consideration. And Nguyen Tan Lan's progress is astonishing. She can actually keep up with Li Mubai in his demented state. Interesting. Indeed. Li Mubai and Nguyen Tan Lan have a good chance. As for my grand disciple, we'll have to see if he's among the 10 chosen by the holy emissary. If the holy emissary doesn't pick him, he'll be in danger. We'll see when the time comes. Considering the 30 people who will enter, the sect lord will probably have to consider carefully. Based on the current situation, it seems that the Holy Land is determined to suppress the seeded contestants from our sects who have entered the Holy Land multiple times. The chances of a newcomer standing out will definitely increase. Time passed in the blink of an eye for cultivators. In the blink of an eye, another 80 years had passed in the cave. This time, when Nguyen Tan Lan sensed that Li Mubai might be close to leaving the 8th floor, she had been paying attention to Li Mubai's movements. The reason was very simple. There was only one pagoda stele on the last floor. Although the last pagoda's stele was extremely large, and the space in front of the stele was 10,000 kilometers wide, she was still worried that Li Mubai would proceed in a straight line. If that was the case, he would definitely arrive in the vicinity of the number one expert, Situ Qian. As for her, she did not want others to discover the influence that Li Mubai, who was in the mad devil realm, had on the people nearby. Qi. It moved. After 80 years, Qinhao finally moved. When Qinhao leaped into the air, Wen Tanlan's heart skipped a beat, and she abruptly followed, instantly increasing her speed to the limit and deliberately keeping pace with Qinhao. At the same time, she tried to get closer to Qinhao. To her relief, Li Mubai, who was in the mad devil realm, did not react to her approach. In just a few minutes, she was close to Qinhao's side. Looking at the dark and empty eyes, she took a deep breath, summoned her courage, and reached out her hand to Qinhao. Buzz! When she grabbed Qinhao's hand, her entire body and soul trembled violently. She widened her eyes in shock and fear. Pain, a pain that made her heart bleed, was transmitted to her through her body. She could not imagine what kind of heartache it was. But what shocked her even more was that in this heartache, a terrifying and crazy willpower pervaded it. If this willpower attacked her, she was sure that her mind would be destroyed in an instant. She held Qinhao's hand tightly, wanting to comfort his heartache from the bottom of her heart. At the same time, she quietly exerted her strength and moved to the side. She did not dare to make it too obvious. However, under her deliberate movements, she moved away from Situ Qian by about 1,000 li and headed straight for the pagoda stele. Buzz! When she entered the range of the 9-storied pagoda stele, Wen Tanlan only felt a moment of terrifying pressure before it disappeared. At this time, Li Mubai, who was in the mad devil state, began to devour the energy and pressure of heaven and earth. However, in just a moment, Wen Tanlan almost fell from the void, and her face turned pale. Obviously, the pressure of the 9-storied pagoda stele's Dao mark had exceeded the range that she could withstand. At this moment, she had a clearer understanding of Situ Qian's strength. Situ Qian was indeed the most qualified existence to be Daluo Jinxian's number one expert in the Hunyuan sect. Situ Qian is really powerful. Li Mubai in the mad devil realm is naturally stronger, but, when his mad devil realm disappears, who will be stronger? Wen Tanlan could not help but size up Qinhao and Situ Qian in the distance. Finally, she looked at Qinhao and thought to herself, he should be, not weaker than Situ Qian, and he will definitely be stronger in the future. There are only 200 years left. No matter how terrifying the pressure is, as long as I'm near the critical point, I can slowly try to become stronger. Wen Tanlan felt that she had become the core of the whirlpool, and Qinhao had shaken off her hand. She began to move away bit by bit, looking for the critical point. She was afraid that she would not be able to withstand the terrifying pressure for a short while, so she had to be careful to avoid being crushed. If she could not even escape into the area covered by Li Mubai, then it would be a tragedy. When Situ Qian and the others woke up one after another, they found that Li Mubai and Wen Tanlan had once again arrived in front of the 9-storied pagoda stele. They were even more amazed by Wen Tanlan's improvement. Although Wen Tanlan looked like she was in extreme pain at any time, and they were afraid that she would not be able to comprehend anything at all, it was already very terrifying that she could withstand the pressure of the 9-storied pagoda stele. Wen Tanlan had indeed fallen into an unprecedented pain. If it were not for Li Mubai's pressure vacuum, she would have been the first genius to overestimate herself and die in the mystic realm Grotto Heaven. This was because at the beginning, she could only hold on for half a minute before her body and soul were on the verge of collapse. If it were not for the critical point where she could quickly move into the supreme pressure, she would not have been able to escape from the range of the 9-storied pagoda stele's pressure. However, as time passed, she was able to hold on for longer and longer. The progress of her body, soul, and will had surpassed the progress of the 8-storied pagoda stele by several times. This made her even more grateful to Li Mubai. Chapter 968. It's going to be 10 years soon. I should go back. On a mountain peak on a planet in the Sky River sector, the fifth Grand Elder slowly opened his eyes and murmured. When Qinhao stepped into the secret grotto heaven, he had left the Hunyuan sect immediately. He, the sixth Grand Elder, and the seventh Grand Elder became the first group of people from the Hunyuan sect to comprehend the profound meaning of nirvana. However, he had to go back at this time. To the fifth Grand Elder, his successor was even more important than himself. Even if a cultivator reached the Tao-severing perfected immortal realm, his life was not truly eternal. His lifespan was ultimately limited. However, he didn't even leave behind his legacy. That was too sad. After sending out a wisp of divine consciousness to inform the fifth Grand Elder, he turned into a stream of light, tore through the space barrier, and left at lightning speed. Phew! In the depths of the fifth Grand Elder's palace, Tian Wanxiang slowly opened his eyes when the 10-year period was almost up. He looked excited. For him to be able to cultivate here, it was undoubtedly because of his precious disciple. The cave abode of a Tao-severing perfected immortal is so cool. Could it be that I can break through to the Tao-severing perfected immortal realm in my lifetime? Ha ha ha. My disciple is coming out soon. The fifth Grand Elder should be back soon too. Tian Wanxiang did not know where the fifth Grand Elder had gone. He only knew that the fifth Grand Elder would rush back when the 10-year period was up. The two of them would definitely go to the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra to watch Li Mubai's final battle. Stepping into the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra was undoubtedly what they wanted to see the most. Although the hope was a little slim, it was not impossible. Swish! Greetings, Saint Envoy. In the wee hours of the morning, the Hunyuan sect's secret grotto heaven once again welcomed the once-in-a-decade opening day. As usual, the Saint Envoy arrived at the entrance of the secret grotto heaven a few hours in advance and bowed to the 5 elders. The elders only nodded slightly and sat down cross-legged as they did in the past. They slowly closed their eyes. They did not seem to care about the increasing number of Hunyuan sect disciples. The 5 elders had experienced countless worlds and had long understood the Saint Envoy's character. He would not say a word to them. Therefore, he patiently waited for noon to arrive. The new 30 names to enter the Heavenly Passage Mystic Realm had already been announced. Just as the 5 elders had speculated, the sect master's list of names was more biased towards the newcomers with potential. But, the truly powerful seeded contestants hadn't been given up. This was something that couldn't be helped. At the very least, the seeded contestants would still be able to display their superior combat strength in the final competition, even if they were eliminated. I wonder how strong Li Mubai will be after he comes out of the grotto heaven. It really makes me curious. Who knows? However, no matter how strong he is, he can't be that strong. After all, his foundation is still lacking. What was different from the previous years was that this time, the cultivators who were watching were not talking about the 30 top geniuses who were about to enter, but about Li Mubai who was about to come out. This was understandable. After all, Li Mubai's sudden rise was too eye-catching. The 5 elders shook their heads when they heard the discussions of the disciples. They knew very well what kind of sensation Li Mubai would cause after he came out. No one would be able to stop his rise, his true rise. What did it mean to be in the demonic realm for more than 600 years? Moreover, he was someone who had obtained a powerful immortal fate. Of course, this was the conclusion of the 5 elders. What surprised the 5 elders was that the statue-like saint, who usually didn't have any reaction before the opening of the grotto heaven, suddenly exclaimed and frowned. Saint, interesting. The elder muttered to himself. Then, he looked at the 5 elders and said, Did you notice that he was in the demonic realm? Ah. Saint, we noticed it earlier and paid attention to it a few times later. Could it be that he was still in the demonic realm? The 5 elders were extremely shocked. All along, they did not think that the divine emissary could sense the situation in the grotto heaven. But now, they suddenly understood why the divine emissary would always come a few hours earlier. Why the divine emissary would only take a few glances at the 30 people who came out and finish selecting them. It turned out that the grotto heaven, which contained the most profound mysteries and was isolated from the laws of space and time, which even they had to use their tokens to check, couldn't escape the saint's senses. Oh. You mean, this little fellow has been in the demonic realm many times? This. When we first noticed it, we paid attention to it for a few days. He had been immersed in the demonic realm. Later, we checked a few times and he was still in the demonic realm. Hearing the elder's words, the elder's narrowed eyes suddenly opened a little. A few days. Are you talking about inside or outside? Outside. After that, we didn't want to disturb the other disciples' cultivation. We checked a few times and they were all in the demonic realm, so we stopped paying attention to it. I didn't expect, it was still. The elder deliberately hid the truth. After all, this definitely involved the Hunyuan sect's top secret. They would rather play dumb than let others know that they had discovered the secret. Then you mean that this little fellow might have been immersed in the demonic realm all this time? The elder's eyes widened even more. It's possible. It should be amazing. Congratulations, the Hunyuan sect has produced a true genius. And he must be a genius who is fated with the Immortal Sutra. Very good, very good. What shocked the 5 elders was that the sacred envoy actually said such a thing. What did that mean? It meant that Li Mubai's comprehension of the pagoda steel's Tao marks in the demonic realm was extremely shocking. That also meant that when he kept going deeper, it was not purely to devour the heaven and earth spirit chi to refine his body. The 5 elders were shocked. This was something that they could not tell at all, but the sacred envoy had no reason to lie. What is that little fellow's name? Li Mubai, the successor that the 5th Grand Elder accepted 10 years ago, I do remember. But I didn't pay attention to his name. The little girl who was with him participated a few times. Her name is Nguyen Tan Lan. Her progress this time is also very shocking. Not bad, not bad. The elder closed his eyes after saying that. Clearly, he did not have the desire to continue speaking. But at this time, the 5 elders knew that the sacred envoy must have started sensing the situation inside again. The surrounding cultivators could not hear the 6 conversation at all. They only saw the old sacred envoy, who had never spoken, seem to be saying something to the 5 elders. But they did not think too much about it. Chi. When noon was about to arrive, the 30 experts who were going to enter arrived almost at the same time. All of them were valiant and high-spirited. Especially the 7 new faces, they could not hide the excitement on their faces. Until now, they were all overwhelmed by the unexpected favor. Because, they did not think that they would be qualified to enter the grotto heaven this time. Chapter 969. It's noon. Open. Chi. The 5 elders took out 5 tokens once again. The Tao laws rolled and the immortal light shone brightly. The door to the secret realm opened with a rumble. Chi. One by one, figures sitting cross-legged and wrapped in mysterious energy flew out of the secret realm's grotto heaven. Buzz. To everyone's surprise, most of the figures that flew out opened their eyes instantly. However, one of them did not seem to notice that he had stepped out of the secret realm. He did not even open his eyes and was still cultivating. However, that was not the reason for everyone's shock. The real reason was that this guy had madly devoured the heaven and earth spirit chi, causing a terrifying fluctuation in the heaven and earth spirit chi. Are you kidding me? At this moment, the 5 elders were dumbfounded. Stepping out of the secret realm and the fluctuation in the environment had completely changed, but he still could not wake up from his crazy state. What a terrifying devouring speed. Li Mubai is so powerful. Oh my god. Isn't he too engrossed? Or is he deliberately showing off? The crowd burst into exclamations. How interesting. The saint looked at Qin Hao in a daze for a moment. Then, he stroked his long beard and said with a smile, "That's interesting." At this moment, Chen Hao frowned slightly. He seemed to have finally sensed that the heaven and earth spirit qi around him had thinned 100 times or even 1,000 times. There was also no pressure from the Tao marks. He finally stopped devouring and slowly opened his eyes. Ah! This caused even more exclamations. The first reason that everyone exclaimed was that Li Mubai's eyes. What kind of eyes were they? They were dull, empty, and completely unfocused. There were no emotions in his eyes at all. It was like a person who had lost his soul. The second reason that everyone exclaimed was that Nguyen Tan Lan, who was blessed by the heavens, had taken the initiative to walk to Chen Hao's side and gently hold Chen Hao's hand. Although her face had turned red, her grip was firm. What was going on? Two people who had never crossed paths had actually come together after coming out of the secret realm. This time, it wasn't just the onlookers who were shocked. Even the people who had come out of the secret realm were frowning in confusion. Obviously, they did not see Nguyen Tan Lan holding Li Mubai's hand in the grotto heaven. Nguyen Tan Lan did not dare to do so at first, but when she saw Chen Hao's empty eyes when he opened them, she instantly made a decision. Whether it was for her own cultivation or to comfort the soul that made her heart ache, it was necessary. Holding Chen Hao's hand tightly, Nguyen Tan Lan's face was flushed, but her eyes were firm and unyielding. She had no intention of avoiding his gaze. Shameless, another woman, who had nodded slightly to Chen Hao, looked at this scene with contempt in her heart. Of course, she knew that Nguyen Tan Lan had nothing to do with Li Mubai. It was just that after Li Mubai entered the demonic realm, he happened to come to her side and devour the energy of heaven and earth. After that, she had been following him. At this time, she actually held the hand of Li Mubai, who seemed to have not returned to normal. In front of everyone's eyes, if this was not shameless, what was? The other people who knew what was going on also despised Nguyen Tan Lan to the extreme. It was understandable that she was a little snobbish. After all, to be able to have a cultivation partner with outstanding talent was undoubtedly a huge temptation for cultivators who pursued the peak of martial arts. However, it was a little unacceptable to be too snobbish. The two of you, and you. The old sacred envoy did not waste any time. He casually pointed at Chen Hao, whose eyes were blank and seemed to be in a daze. Then, he pointed at Nguyen Tan Lan, who was holding Chen Hao's hand. The third person actually pointed at Zhang Chong, and the fourth person pointed at Situ Qian, who was still making amazing progress. Then, it was the woman who had just despised Nguyen Tan Lan, and then 5 more people. When the 5 elders quickly selected the other 10 people, the sacred envoy pointed at the gate of time and space and opened it. To everyone's surprise, the sacred envoy actually released a ray of energy to envelop Li Mubai and Nguyen Tan Lan, who were holding hands. Then, he released a ray of energy to envelop the others and stepped into the gate of time and space. 5 elders, what's going on? After the new batch of 30 people entered the secret realm, a divine sense suddenly reached the ears of the 5 elders. Greetings, 5th Grand Elder. No need to be so polite. What happened to my disciple? I sensed that his divine sense seemed to be completely sealed. 5th Grand Elder, Li Mubai obtained a great opportunity in the secret realm. We don't know why he entered the demonic realm, and it seems that he hasn't woken up since. He's been like this since he came out. Sealing his divine sense only means that he is still immersed in the demonic realm. Ah! The 5th Grand Elder exclaimed in shock. Then, he said excitedly, how did you? Forget it, I wasn't in the Hunyuan sect before this. Then, what's going on with Nguyen Tan Lan and my disciple? This. We're not very clear about it. We just found out that when Li Mubai was crazily devouring the energy of heaven and earth, he happened to be by her side. Then, she followed Li Mubai. After coming out, why is she like this? Maybe, she's interested in your disciple. 5th Grand Elder, when the divine envoy sensed Li Mubai's situation, he praised him. He said that a real genius had appeared in the Hunyuan sect, and that he was a genius who was destined for the Immortal Sutra. Ah! This is what you said true. The fifth great elder was shocked once again. This disciple had given him too many surprises. Originally, he had hoped that he would be chosen by the divine envoy. Now, it had far exceeded his expectations. Everything I said is true. Good, very good. Thank you, everyone. The fifth grand elder retracted his divine thought, and excitedly took Tian Wanxiang, who was staring at him, into the macro world in his mind. Then, his figure flashed, and he broke through the air. Li Mubai. Is there anything I can help you with? In the gate of time and space, Nguyen Tan Lan, who was alone with Chen Hao, held tightly onto Chen Hao's hand and asked gently. She stared at the empty, dark eyes and handsome face, and her heart trembled. At this moment, Chen Hao had sealed his divine thought, and she could no longer feel the pain and sadness in his eyes. However, as long as she looked at his eyes, she would be reminded of the heart-wrenching pain in the mystic realm. Unfortunately, at this moment, Chen Hao seemed to have lost his soul. He did not respond to her words. Little girl, are you Dao companions with this little guy? At this moment, Nguyen Tan Lan was surprised to hear the divine envoy's voice. The divine envoy's question made her blush, and she did not know how to answer. Chapter 970. When the old man saw that Nguyen Tan Lan did not answer his question, he thought that she had admitted to it and praised her. According to what the old man knows, this little fellow only rose to prominence in the Hunyuan sect recently. You are already the top genius of the Hunyuan sect and have been to the Immortal Scripture Sanctuary several times. You have good taste. Previously, he had heard the discussions of the disciples of the Hunyuan sect. In addition, he had been in charge of the Hunyuan sect. Therefore, he had more or less learned about Li Mubai. A girl favored by the heavens was fond of the previously unknown Li Mubai. Her taste was not simple at all. In the old man's opinion, Li Mubai had been with Nguyen Tan Lan even when he was in the demonic realm. Therefore, they must have been in a relationship in private for a long time. It was only because of Li Mubai's status that they did not express it in front of others. Today, Nguyen Tan Lan had taken the initiative to approach him. This undoubtedly revealed their hidden feelings. How could the old man know that he had made this judgment on his own? Of course, if he had not made this judgment, he would not have sealed the two of them who were holding hands. With his cultivation, he could naturally determine that Li Mubai was still immersed in the demonic realm. It was just that his obsession in the grotto heaven of the mystic realm had been temporarily suppressed due to the change in environment. His sealed divine sense and the inner yuan flowing in his body showed that he was currently immersed in a deep level of enlightenment. His body was completely under the control of his subconscious. This situation made him seem like a martial arts fanatic who had forgotten everything and was walking or lying down, cultivating at any time and place. However, in the demonic realm, he was even more engrossed than a martial arts fanatic. Senior. Nguyen Tan Lan said softly, as if she wanted to say something. Don't worry, he is in good condition now. The longer he stays in this state, the more he will reap. You'd better not use your energy to deliberately awaken him, oh. Nguyen Tan Lan was interrupted by the saint and did not want to explain further. Anyway, this was not a bad thing for her. When she mustered the courage to hold Chen Hao's hand, it was for her own improvement and to appease Li Mubai. Why should she be so serious? Then what about when the final competition begins? You are the person closest to him. When the time comes, you only need to bring him into the arena. You don't have to care about anything else. Under the control of his subconscious, the combat strength he could display was several times stronger than when he was awake. Regardless of whether it was reaction speed or explosive power, they were both terrifying. Don't look at how he's completely restrained right now, as if he's lost his soul. This is the nourishment of the berserk demon realm after the temporary calm. Strictly speaking, he's still in the berserk demon realm. Oh. Nguyen Thanh Lan replied. She looked at the tall and slender figure, her heart surging. She did not know what would happen when Li Mubai woke up, but this period of time was undoubtedly her opportunity. Even if he was not awake and his subconscious was in contact with her, the influence of his subconscious was definitely there. If I can really get together with him, it should be of great help to me, right? Nguyen Thanh Lan thought to herself. For someone who was wholeheartedly pursuing the pinnacle of martial arts, benefits were always the most important thing. Even if she felt pity for him, she would not have cared at all if she did not see the huge potential benefits that Li Mubai had and the fact that there was something about Li Mubai that attracted her. This was the reality. The great Tao was merciless. Buzz. The space-time doors suddenly shook. The saint, Chen Hao, Nguyen Thanh Lan, and the other 20 disciples of the Hunyuan sect appeared in a new world. The blue sky was clear, and the scorching sun was high up in the sky. The bright sunlight poured over the vast and boundless sea. A huge island stood in the boundless sea, shrouded in 9-colored immortal light and exuding a dense aura. It was like a fairyland. Beams of light, swallowing and spitting, cut through the void. With a momentum that swept through the heavens and earth, they absorbed the majestic power of heaven and earth from the void and maintained the operation of the 9-colored immortal light. It was a natural phenomenon. Chi. 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 Beams of flowing light streaked across the sky and converged on the island from all directions. From time to time, space-time doors would open, and groups of young top geniuses of the Daluo Golden Wonderland would step out under the leadership of the saint. This island was the most powerful city in the entire vast thousand chaotic world, the Immortal Scripture City. It was the guardian of the Immortal Scripture Holy Land. The entrance to the Immortal Scripture Holy Land was at the core of the Immortal Scripture City. The final competition for the spot to the Immortal Scripture Holy Land that was held once every 10 years was held in the Immortal Scripture City. Today, it was the Immortal Scripture City, which would appear every 10 years and could be called the largest event in the vast thousand chaotic world. Although this was only a competition among the experts of the Daluo Golden Wonderland, it was a major event that concerned the entire cultivation world. The Immortal Scripture Holy Land could be said to be the birthplace of all kinds of magical powers and laws in the vast thousand chaotic world. The 3 immortal scriptures were like the Tao Scripture, the source of the Tao power of the cultivators on earth. They were of great importance. Just thinking about the upcoming competition for the spot made one's blood boil. Immortal Scripture City. This is the Immortal Scripture City. What a sacred and vast aura. Zhang Chong and the 3 disciples who had obtained the qualification for the first time looked down at the Immortal Scripture City that was getting closer and closer. Their expressions became excited. This was the Immortal Scripture City that held the dreams and hopes of countless cultivators. But in every era, only the top evildoers had the hope of coming here. The cultivators who had signed up and passed through layers of selection to obtain the qualification for the final competition could only come here after obtaining the qualification. Their selection competition was not held in the Immortal Scripture City, but in a place jointly organized by the top sects and presided over by the sacred envoy of the Immortal Scripture Holy Land. Unlike the excitement of the crowd, Chen Hao, whose eyes were empty and completely unfocused, still seemed to be immersed in his own spiritual world. He had no reaction to the legendary Immortal Scripture City. In the Immortal Scripture City, each of you top sects has a palace allocated to you, and each of you has a separate cultivation room. Every time a newcomer appeared, the sacred envoy would routinely introduce them. But this time, when he spoke of the cultivation room, he intentionally or unintentionally glanced at Chen Hao and continued, "Well, if you are willing, you can also cultivate together. Li Mubai's situation is special. Nguyen Thanh Lan, you have to look after him." Nguyen Thanh Lan was slightly startled and immediately nodded gently. Although Zhang Chong and the others despised him in their hearts, they did not show it. The Immortal Scripture City prohibits any private fights, so you had better take care of yourselves and not cause trouble. Even if you have any grudges, you can do whatever you like after you leave here. But not here. Otherwise, you will be disqualified from the competition. Understand? Understood, Sacred Envoy. You only have half a month. Prepare well, swoosh. After the Sacred Envoy finished speaking, he entered the 9-colored celestial light. After passing through the celestial light, he would descend to the immortal scripture city. Buzz. But at that moment, Qin Hao, who was being held by Nguyen Tan Lan, suddenly had a flash in his eyes. His essence, qi, and spirit gushed out in an instant. His black hair danced in the wind, and he began to devour the mysterious 9-colored celestial light. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.